Welcome to Novel Love Hearing. Here, we bring you fun, thrilling, and immersive novels in audio form. With a growing library of audiobooks, there's something here for every listener. Do you like Naruto fan fiction? We have it all. From powerful ninja battles to amazing sage arts and wood-style moves, or even Tsunoda's boobs, you can enjoy epic adventures anytime. Love One Piece stories? Soar through the skies with Moonwalk, sense the world with observation Haki, clash with enemies using armament Haki, spending the night with Nami and Robin and rise to fame by unleashing your conqueror's Haki. Become a true pirate of the seas. Your adventure starts here. Want even more? You can go full Bankai. Let's go. We offer a wide range of stories, including Fairy Tales, Hunter x Hunter, High School DxD, Marvel and DC, Harry Potter, and many more. So, what are you waiting for? Jump into endless adventures today. We're waiting for you at Novel Love Hearing. Ryo Futaba was stunned. Her first thought was that this guy had serious problems. Not only did he claim to like the gloomy and socially awkward original Ryo, someone often seen as strange, but he also wanted both versions of her? But Ryo wasn't joking. If he liked Ryo Futaba, why not like both? For now, however, he had a more pressing question. If I'm not mistaken, you're the personality born from her desire to be noticed, correct? Ryo Futaba didn't respond, but her silence was telling. This man seemed to know far too much about her. So, you've been trying to attract attention by intentionally standing out? I had that thought, she admitted, biting her lip. She did want people to notice her. That's why she had these ideas. Stop that, Ryo said abruptly. Why? Because you've already caught my attention. I don't want the Ryo Futaba I've set my eyes on to be appreciated by anyone else. He stepped closer, his piercing gaze locking on to hers. Because I'm selfish. Ryo Futaba froze under his intense gaze. In his eyes, she saw a fiery passion. For her and for the original Ryo. It was the kind of attention she had always craved. And yet, now that she had it, she found herself too shy to meet his gaze. Unconsciously, she looked away. Are you serious? She asked softly. Although he was a stranger, something about him made her want to believe. Absolutely. I like Ryo Futaba. Both of you, Ryo said with disarming honesty. You're shameless, you know that? Her tone was mocking, but there was a hint of joy in her voice. At least this proved that she could still attract someone's attention. Can't help it. That's just who I am, Ryo said with a shrug. I can handle your troubles. What about you? What do you want? After a brief silence, Ryo Futaba extended her hand. Give me your contact information. Ryo handed her his phone, letting her save his number. When she handed it back, she gave him a bright smile. Instead of helping me, why don't you focus on helping her? With a wave of her hand, she turned and left. As she walked away, she added. Don't worry, I promise not to post any photos online. Ryo chuckled. It seemed she had her own plans. Man, being a hopeless romantic is tough. Now I've got 2 more girls to keep an eye on. Meanwhile, in the infirmary, Yu and Yumiko were sitting face to face. This was their first genuine heart-to-heart conversation. Yu couldn't hold back any longer. Yumiko. What did you mean earlier by? She trailed off, unable to finish her question. She still couldn't believe Yumiko wasn't angry with her for liking her boyfriend. Yumiko rolled her eyes, crossing her arms with a faint smile. What? You think this whole thing is ridiculous? Yeah, Yu admitted weakly. If she were in Yumiko's position, she would never forgive herself. Well, let me tell you this. Things are even more ridiculous than you think. Yumiko took a deep breath before delivering the bombshell. Ryo likes you. Eh? The words hit Yu like a lightning bolt. Ryo liked her? Then why was he dating Yumiko? Yumiko's expression turned bitter. Have you considered that he doesn't just like you? He likes me too. And probably others as well. What? Yu felt like her brain was overheating. But Yumiko wasn't done yet. And to be honest, I came after you. What do you mean? If I hadn't followed you that day, it would have been you in a relationship with him first, not me. Huh? 3 sentences in, and Yu's brain had completely short-circuited. For the first time in her life, she realized that her already not-so-bright mind wasn't equipped to handle this level of chaos. Chapter 134, New Chat Group Function. Yumiko, what? Are you even saying? Yu's overwhelmed mind desperately tried to convince her that Yumiko was joking, that this was all a prank. How could anyone knowingly settle for being the third? Yumiko had always been so proud and independent. But the truth is often stranger than fiction. What Yu didn't know was that the current Yumiko was not the same as the one she had always known. Her usual pride had always carried a hint of performative confidence, but deep down, She was also grappling with her own vulnerabilities. Yumiko rolled her eyes, exasperated. "Don't think I'm joking. I'm being completely serious," she added pointedly. "And don't use normal standards to judge someone like Rao. For example. Like this." With a simple thought, Yumiko's outfit transformed into a dazzling black and white gown, shimmering with an otherworldly glow. Yui froze, captivated. The ethereal aura surrounding Yumiko made her appear almost like a goddess of day and night descending to earth. "See? Rao isn't an ordinary person, and honestly, neither am I. Or a lot of us." With another thought, Yumiko dispelled her powers, returning to her usual appearance. She looked at you and said sincerely, "If you really like Rao, then go for it." "Ah. Yu's mind spiraled further into confusion, more chaotic than it had ever been. Did she truly like Rao? The answer was obvious. Her fluttering heart, the way his relationship with Yumiko had pained her so deeply. Everything pointed to the truth. She liked him. But now Yumiko, someone who was already with Rao, was encouraging her to pursue him. I don't know." Yui felt utterly lost. Suddenly, even Yumiko seemed like someone from a different world. If that were true, what was left in Yui's own world? Sensing that Yui was overwhelmed by too much information, Yumiko decided to stop pushing. "I'm not asking you to decide right now," Yumiko said gently. "But no matter what you choose to do, I'll support you. Still, if you want to understand Rao better, I think there's something you need to know." Yumiko wanted Yui to fully understand Rao. Just as she had. Only then could Yui make an informed choice. She discreetly opened the chat app. "Yumiko Mura, Rao, can I ask you something?" "Rao, ask?" Sounds more like you're making a request. "Yumiko Mura. Can your intuition not be so sharp for once?" "Rao, haha, whatever you're asking for, I'll agree to it. But on one condition." "Yumiko Mura, huh? You're setting conditions for your girlfriend now?" "Rao, it's just something to bring us closer, that's all." "Yumiko Mura, tch. Who wants to get closer to you?" Her face flushed red as she typed the reply. "Yumiko Mura, fine, say it." "Rao, stay over at my place this weekend." "Yumiko Mura, that's it?" "Rao, that's it." "Yumiko Mura, I have a feeling you're up to no good." "Rao, what could I possibly be scheming? I just want to spend time with you." Of course, he conveniently left out the part about trying to ease her into a closer relationship with Mai and Toru. "Yumiko Mura, fine, I'll agree." "Rao, alright, what's your request?" "Yumiko Mura, can you create a subgroup for you?" "Rao, huh?" "Yumiko Mura, I have my reasons." "Yumiko Mura, look, I know you've already set your sights on Yui. She's practically a juicy steak sitting on your plate." "Rao, wow, Yumiko, has anyone ever told you how sharp your observations are?" "Yumiko Mura, tch, I just see right through your perverted nature." "Yumiko Mura, I'm not going to stop you from going after Yui." "Yumiko Mura, she's my best friend, and I want her to understand everything about you before she makes her choice. Just like I did." "Rao, oh? So you fully understood everything about me before deciding to join me in the bedroom, making waves and stirring storms?" Yumiko's eye twitched. Why did he have to describe it like that? "Yumiko Mura, idiot. Stop talking about me. This is about you." She couldn't stand the self-inflicted embarrassment. Just thinking about that made her body tingle. It was the clearest sign that she'd already been shaped into something entirely his. "Rao, fine, fine. I'll do as you ask." Ding. "You've joined the chat group's subgroup, Yumiko, did you hear something just now?" Yui looked up in confusion. Yumiko nodded. "That was the subgroup notification, wasn't it?" "Huh." As Yui nodded, a wave of information about the chat group flooded into her mind. Seeing Yui's wide-eyed expression, Yumiko began to explain. "First of all, everything about the chat group is real. I asked Rao to add you. He's the group admin. And just so you know, most of the members are women. And a lot of them are Rao's women." The last two words were emphasized heavily. Yui blinked, dazed. World travel? Trades? Rather than feeling shocked or upset, she found herself brimming with excitement. It meant she, Yumiko, and Rao weren't from different worlds after all. Yumiko noticed the subtle smile forming on Yui's face and didn't know whether to laugh or sigh. Who could be happy hearing that their crush has multiple partners? This girl truly was a hopeless romantic. And Yumiko, a self-declared realist, found herself calling someone else love-struck for once. How ironic. Not here? In class 3-3, a blonde twin-tailed girl, Ayuri Spencer Sawamura, looked around at the sparsely populated classroom. Disappointment filled her gaze when she didn't see the person she wanted to meet most. After some time, Ariri had finally recovered from the recent events. Her mother had taken her to the Aki household to offer monetary compensation, and with that matter settled, Ariri finally felt a sense of relief. She had planned to invite Ray out to her home, just as her mother had suggested. Sigh, I guess I'll have to wait until the afternoon. A small pout of disappointment appeared on her face as she turned to leave. A voice called out from behind. Sawamura-san? She turned around to see a girl with a bob haircut, someone she had met before. You are. Her name? Slipped her mind. Sorry, I don't remember your name. Megumi Kato. Oh, Kato-san. Is there something you need? Yes. Megumi's gaze swept over Ariri subtly, observing her. This blonde girl who had appeared by Rei-Ao's side on multiple occasions. In that moment, Megumi formed an idea. I'm a friend of Rei-Ao's, and I've heard him mention you a lot. Are you here to see him? Rei-Ao talks about me often? Hearing that, Ariri's heart fluttered, and a giddy feeling took over her. She couldn't suppress the smile spreading on her face as she replied. Yes, I was looking for him, but it seems he's not here. Megumi remained silent for a moment. This girl, she realized, was surprisingly easy to read. Her emotions were written all over her face. It seemed she had strong feelings for Rei-Ao. Deciding to push forward, Megumi offered. If you don't mind, I can pass along a message to him for you. This. Ariri hesitated. After all, inviting a boy to her home wasn't something to be relayed lightly. Megumi, ever perceptive, noticed her dilemma and offered an alternative. Or I can let Rei-Ao know that you came looking for him, and you two can meet later. Yes. This option was perfect. Ariri nodded eagerly, thanked Megumi, and left the room with a bounce in her step. Megumi watched her retreating figure thoughtfully. Maybe these bonds aren't enough yet. Rei-Ao, meanwhile, was entirely unaware that his girlfriends were busy finding new additions for his ever-growing list of connections. He had more immediate concerns, his latest level up. Not just one level. 2. Status update, name, Rei-Ao, level 50, abilities, freeze. Self. True sight. Transformation. Blessing. Demon King. Elf King. Cognitive disappearance. Sword mastery. Crimson Dragon God. Time causal interference. Inherent device, King of all things, possessions, God freezing sword. Demon God manifestation, demons extract. Description, you now wield the power to annihilate the surface of the earth in mere moments. It must have been thanks to my dragon wives. Rei-Ao chuckled, recalling the overwhelming contributions of his 2 dragon companions. Ding, you've reached level 50. New feature unlocked, chatroom subgroup functionality. Oh? This was a new feature. Chatroom subgroup functionality, feature 1, world subgroups, members from the same world can join the same subgroup. Both main and subgroup members can communicate here, feature 2, locked. World subgroups, huh? Rei-Ao opened the chatroom interface, spotting a variety of newly added world-specific subgroups. Sure enough, every world now had its own group, populated by the main chatroom and subgroup members. For instance, the subgroup for Sukobujujima's world included people like Saya Takagi. However, the subgroup for Friarin's world had only one member, Friarin herself. The best part? As the chatroom admin, Rei-Ao had unrestricted access to enter and communicate in any group he pleased. Interesting. A mischievous smile crept onto his face. The possibilities were endless. Chapter 135, Friarin is alone on the world subgroup chat. The subgroups were assigned to each world. However, as the special case of being the chatroom administrator, Rei-Ao had unrestricted access to any subgroup. This allowed him to quickly obtain information from members across different worlds. For instance, right now, he joined Shizu Aizawa's world subgroup to inquire about the recent upgrade. Rei-Ao, Velzard, Velgrund, what major thing did you two do this time? Velzard, we just took down another calamity-class monster. Velgrund, yep, found it wandering around this world. If it weren't for these rules, I'd want to crush all those creatures to become even stronger. One day, I'll stomp Guy into the ground. Shizu Aizawa, Velzard-senpai, Velgrund-senpai, you're already so strong. Velgrund, not strong enough. At least not until I surpass that annoying guy. Velzard, the primordial red truly lives up to being the strongest in this world. If we don't count Big Brother's child. It was true. Their world boasted many powerful beings, but it also followed certain regulations. Randomly hunting powerful monsters wasn't an option. Many of these monsters were intricately connected to demon lords. Though Velzard and Velgrund weren't the strongest in their world, their actions were still closely monitored, and even their current movements might have already attracted attention. Velzard, this new subgroup feature is really nice. It makes chatting with others directly so convenient. It'd be even better if there were more people. The main chat room participants echoed similar sentiments. Friren, in my world subgroup, it's just me. That's no different from having no one at all. That couldn't be helped. Rao did consider another candidate, Fern. However, Friren and Fern existed in vastly different time periods. The current timeline hadn't even seen Fern's birth. Akam, Najunda and the others said this feature is great. Stella, for a group of assassins like you, using this chat room for intel gathering is ridiculously convenient. Ayamyamagawa, it's a very useful function. Taru, Rao, darling, when are you coming home? Stella? Shizu Aizawa, Taru-san is so bold in the chat room. Stella, Humphrey, boldness in this chat room isn't new. Honestly, everyone here is infected by Rao's shamelessness. Rao, still at school. I'll be back this afternoon. Taru, alright, I'll clean up and get our love nest ready for you. My Sakurajima, is this what dragons in heat act like? My, observing Taru wagging her tail in excitement, felt incredibly awkward. Friren, I don't understand, but this could make for an interesting research note. Yukino Shida, I'd rather not focus on this right now. Yukino Shida, Mabel, you better not be causing trouble at my house. Mabel, I didn't do anything, I swear. Yukino Shida, send me a photo of the fridge. Mabel, I'm sorry. Yukino Shida? Sakobujujima, what's going on now? Megami Kato, stealing food, maybe? Yukino Shida, exactly. This glutton. I have no idea how big her stomach is. Yukino Shida, she ate enough food for 3 days in one sitting, and still sneaks into the fridge at night. Suai, that's so scary. Yukino Shida, tell me, what's left in the fridge now? Mabel, and not much. Yukino Shida, not much? Mabel, nothing. It's empty. Yukino Shida, empty? In the service club, Yukino was gripping her book tightly. She could hardly believe it. She had prepared enough food to last 3 days, and yet it was all gone in half a day? Exhaling deeply to calm herself, Yukino pressed her temples to suppress the rising anger. For the first time, she began to wonder if she had made a mistake back then. Should she have listened to Rao's warning? Mabel, I couldn't help it. The food in this world is just way too delicious. Yukino Shida, Rao, perhaps. I should have listened to you. Rao, haha, I warned you. Never let her take an inch, or she'll take a mile. Yukino Shida, from now on, I'll only buy 1 day's worth of food. If you eat it all, I'll just order takeout for myself. As for you, Mabel, figure it out yourself. Mabel, no. Yukino Shida, not negotiable. Yukino Shida, Suai, how long until you reach her village? Suai, about 2 or 3 days. Mabel, I don't want to go. I want to stay here. Rao, haha, when someone as kind, patient, and righteous as Yukino Shida-san can't stand you, what else can I say? Reading Rao's comment, Yukino froze. It was flattering, but it still made her feel oddly uncomfortable. Her movement also paused when you entered the club room after parting ways with Yumiko. Hello, Yukinon. As always, Yui greeted her cheerfully. Yukino sighed inwardly but nodded in acknowledgement. Usually, Yui would start chattering about interesting things. But today was different. Yui pulled up a chair and sat directly across from her. Yui Uegahama, hello, everyone? Yukino was startled. It wasn't Yui speaking aloud but a message in the chat room subgroup. Before she could react, she saw another familiar name in the group. Rao, everyone, please welcome our new member in this world's subgroup, Yui Uegahama. Sanoko Machida, welcome. Yumiko Mura, Humphrey, you actually remembered to introduce her? I thought you'd just abandon her. Rao, I was just giving you two some time to chat and bond. Utaha Kasamijoka, Yui Uegahama? Is she another student from our school? Seeing her name mentioned by Rao, Yui's eyes sparkled with excitement. No matter how chaotic her thoughts were, her feelings for Rao remained steadfast. Yukino gazed at her with a complicated expression. Yui. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you before. Yui smiled gently. It's okay, Yukinon. I understand. Besides, I'm still part of this world, aren't I? Yui Uegahama, hi everyone. I'm from the General Studies Department, 3rd year. Little Saint, hi, I'm Little Saint. Kobayashi, that's my mom, Kobayashi. Little Saint's sudden introduction piqued everyone's curiosity. Sanoko Machida, who are they? Rao, Little Saint must be the name Kobayashi gave her. Kobayashi, yeah, I did. Kobayashi, who had been trying to stay under the radar, was forced into the spotlight. My Sakurajima, oh, so you named her. Yukino Shida, what are you all talking about? Rao, to put it simply, Little Saint is a sentient entity born from the god sword that nearly killed Toru. She fused with Kobayashi during the incident. Toru, TCH. I still don't like her presence. Megami Kato, how odd. Is Toru part of this world's subgroup too? Rao, for now, yes. Both Toru and Mabel are part of multiple world subgroups. Mabel, hi everyone. Got any snacks? Yukino Shida. She resisted the urge to bury her face in her hands. What exactly had she taken in? Yuigahama, newbie question, what's this god sword thing? Rao, Toru is a dragon, and the god sword is a weapon designed to kill dragons. That's the gist of it. Rao, for more details, you can check the main chat room's logs or ask someone directly. Yuigahama, okay, got it. Her eyes widened in shock. Dragons? God swords? She turned to Yukino. Yukinon, aren't you surprised? Yukino paused for a moment. I was at first. But you get used to it. Besides, I've met Toru at Rao's house. Yui latched onto a crucial detail. Yukinon, you've been to Rao's house? Yukino hesitated, realizing she had let that slip. But seeing Yui's curious and innocent expression, she sighed and confessed. Actually, I moved into an apartment. Right next door to Rao's place. Eh? Yu exclaimed in shock. So Yukinon had unknowingly gotten so close to Rao. Both Yukinon and Yumiko had gotten ahead of her. A deep sense of defeat washed over Yu. But instead of giving up, a fiery determination ignited within her. Yukinon, I'm coming to your place next time. Alright. Yukino couldn't refuse after seeing Yu's serious expression. Chapter 136, Haruno meet Mabel, going to Arari's house? Yui wanted to visit Yukino's home because it was next to Rao's. There was someone else who wanted to go to Yukino's apartment too. Her elder sister, Haruno Yukino Shida. But her reason had nothing to do with Rao. It was because of an uninvited guest in Yukino's apartment. Earlier that day Haruno frowned deeply as she stared at the heat map from a thermal imaging device. The screen displayed a figure moving back and forth in Yukino's apartment. Is that Yukino? Logically, with school having resumed, Yukino shouldn't be home right now. Skipping class? She immediately dismissed the idea. Yukino would never skip class. Haruno couldn't imagine her responsible and dutiful sister doing such a thing. Unless something unusual had happened. To confirm her suspicions, she decided to send Yukino a text. Sister, hey, Yukino? I think I left a pendant on your sofa last time I was at your place. Can you check for me? Haruno watched the heat signature on the sofa. The figure lay completely still. Moments later, Yukino responded. Yukino, I'm at school. I'll look for it when I get home. Sister, oh, thanks, my darling Yukino. Although her reply was cheerful, Haruno's face had turned icy cold. The figure in Yukino's apartment wasn't Yukino. Then who could it be? A man Yukino was hiding? Or a burglar? Regardless, Haruno felt this was a serious issue. She decided to head to Yukino's apartment to investigate for herself. At Yukino's apartment, arriving at the building, Haruno instructed her driver to wait. If I'm not back in 10 minutes, call for help. With her phone in hand and ready to dial emergency services, she stepped out of the car. She had even swapped her heels for running shoes, just in case she had to make a quick escape. At Yukino's door, she hesitated briefly before pressing the doorbell. Ding dong. Surprisingly, the door opened almost immediately. Haruno tensed, prepared to either fight or flee. But what greeted her was far from what she had imagined. Standing in the doorway was a stunning girl with icy blue, translucent hair, exuding an almost otherworldly purity. Mabel, Yukino? I thought you weren't coming back until later. Why are you here early? The girl tilted her head in confusion, her gaze flicking to Haruno. Wait. Did you cut your hair? She eyed Haruno's shorter hairstyle and slightly different aura. Haruno, who had relaxed upon seeing the girl, now felt a new wave of curiosity. Who was this beautiful girl who clearly knew Yukino? Could it be Yukino had a secret girlfriend? The thought made her heart skip a beat. While Haruno wasn't thrilled at the idea of Yukino marrying anyone, the idea of her sister being gay was something she hadn't prepared for. Pushing her thoughts aside, she smiled and clarified. I'm not Yukino. I'm her sister, Haruno Yukino Shida. Mabel, eh? The girl rubbed her eyes as if to double-check. Now that she looked closer, there were subtle differences in their demeanors. What truly convinced Mabel, however, was the stark contrast in their figures. Particularly the notable difference in chest size. Mabel, huh? You're definitely not Yukino. Mabel quickly regained her composure. Who are you? Yukino didn't mention having anyone else in her family visiting. Haruno's sharp gaze zeroed in on her. And you? Who exactly are you? Yukino's never said anything about having someone else living here. Flustered, Mabel stammered out the pre-prepared excuse Yukino had given her for such situations. Mabel, I'm Mabel. I'm, Yukino's roommate. We're, renting this place together. Despite Yukino's distaste for lying, she had devised this cover story to protect Mabel, who was essentially an undocumented visitor from another world. Haruno, oh? Haruno didn't delve too deeply into suspicions. The shy demeanor of the girl in front of her seemed convincing enough. What Haruno missed, however, was that Mabel wasn't shy. She was merely struggling to recall her script. Even so, I'll still need to confirm this with Yukino, Haruno said with a smile, pulling out her phone to message her sister. Sister, hey, I rushed over to your place to grab the pendant, and there's someone here named Mabel claiming she's your roommate. Is she legit? The reply came quickly. Yukino, no problem. She moved in with me recently. With that confirmation, Haruno let go of her lingering doubts. Sister, oh, our family isn't short on money, so why would you need a roommate? This time, Yukino didn't reply. Whether it was because she was busy in class or just didn't want to respond, Haruno wasn't sure. But she didn't mind. Her frosty little sister's personality was something she was already used to. Do you want to come in? Mabel hesitantly asked. Haruno had initially planned to leave, but considering the pretext she'd given about finding a pendant, she decided to go through with the charade. After texting her driver to wait a bit longer, she stepped inside to look for the pendant. Mabel silently observed her, following Yukino's instructions to speak as little as possible. Elsewhere, Yukino, worried about what was happening at her apartment, sent a message in the group chat. Yukino, Mabel, how's it going? Did anything slip up? Rei-ao, slip up? Yukino, my sister suddenly showed up at my apartment looking for something. I'm worried Mabel might let something slip. Rei-ao chuckled as he read the message. Haruno would never randomly visit Yukino's apartment without reason. She'd likely seen Mabel on the thermal imaging cameras Haruno enjoyed sneaking around with. Mabel, no worries. I stuck to the script and didn't say anything extra. She's looking for something and will leave soon. Yukino, phew, that's good. My Sakurajima, even if she finds out, it's not a big deal. Can't vignettes group erase memories if needed? Yuigahama, huh? They can do that? Utaha Kasumajoka. Utaha's mind immediately drifted to when Sanoko Machida had suggested erasing her memory to solve her inner turmoil. After much thought, she still couldn't bring herself to accept the idea. Megami Kato, even if it's exposed, it's not a huge issue, right? After all, many of us only joined the chat after encountering the supernatural. Megami's insight was sharp. This chat was slowly evolving into a harem group managed by Rei-ao, and she suspected neither Yukino nor her sister Haruno would escape his grasp. Sanoko Machida, true. I only joined after encountering a monster and being saved by Rei-ao. Is that the case for everyone? Rei-ao, not quite. Only beautiful girls and stunning women get invited. Yumiko Miura? Yumiko Miura, what's wrong with you? Taru, Humphrey, how is that wrong? Isn't he just complimenting us for being beautiful? Kobashi, but I'm not beautiful. Rei-ao, you're the low-budget Makima, so that's something. Kobashi, huh? I don't get it. Little Saint, Humphrey. Whether Mama is beautiful or not doesn't matter. Rei-ao chose her, so Mama, you've got this. Kobashi, got what exactly? As the conversation drifted further off topic, Yukino interrupted. Yukino, I just don't want my sister to find out. Rei-ao suspected her reasoning wasn't purely about protecting Haruno from the dangers of the supernatural world. Yukino's feelings were more complex. She didn't want Haruno to know. Not because of concern, but because she wanted something Haruno didn't have. The chat group and knowledge of the supernatural gave Yukino a sense of superiority, however fleeting and shallow it might be. In her family, Yukino had always felt isolated, a shadow cast by her sister's overwhelming presence. Unlike Haruno, Yukino wasn't universally adored. Though outwardly praised as a well-behaved and responsible child, she knew it was often said with a touch of coldness. These experiences had shaped her view of herself as nothing more than Haruno's substitute. A doll without autonomy. But the chat group and the hidden world it revealed offered her something different. A chance to surpass Haruno in at least one aspect. Even if it was selfish, hypocritical, or petty, Yukino clung to it. Rei-ao, sensing her internal conflict, chose not to comment further. Megami Kato, speaking of sisters, Rei-ao, my sister has also encountered the supernatural. Should I ask if she wants to join? Rao, you should check with her first and see if she's open to deeper involvement. Megami Kato, got it. By the way, Ariri Sawamura seemed to be looking for you earlier, Rao. Rao, understood. I'll go check on her. During a break between classes, Rao walked to the entrance of Class 2 and asked the passing student. Could you help me call out Ariri Spencer Sawamura? Oh, sure. The student quickly called for Ariri. Seeing Rao waiting at the door with a smile, Ariri blushed and rushed out. Her hurried steps caught the attention of someone nearby. Glasses gleaming as her gaze turned curious. Ryo Futaba noticed the figure of Rao, someone she had briefly encountered at the science club earlier. Rao noticed her as well, but after giving her a polite nod, he turned his attention back to Ariri, who was pulling him aside. Sawamura-san, I heard from Kato that you wanted to see me. Yes, that's right. Ariri nervously twisted her fingers together. Rao-kun, you can just call me Ariri. Alright, Ariri. So, what's the matter? Is it convenient to talk now? Yes. It's, I was wondering if you could visit my house sometime. My mom wants to thank you for taking me home last time. Blushing, Ariri added. And I also wanted to personally thank you for saving my life. People express gratitude with home visits these days? Rao teased. No, it's not like that. It's just that my mom insisted on preparing a big meal as thanks. She proudly explained. It's a rare privilege. My mom only makes these meals on special occasions. Oh? Then I'll look forward to it. Rao smiled. Actually, I'm free today. Today? Ariri's eyes lit up. I'll call my mom right away. She herself was looking forward to it. Having Rao at her house felt exciting. By the way, I don't eat beef. Huh? Just kidding. Afternoon Rao, Toru, my Sakurajima, I might not be home tonight. Don't wait for me. Just have dinner yourselves. Toru, oh, what a shame. I had a tail feast prepared. My Sakurajima, no tail feasts allowed. Stella, what's going on? Are you out on a date with another woman? Frieren, that's entirely possible, considering how many girlfriends Rao has. Megami Kato, it's probably related to Sawamura-san, who came looking for him earlier. Rao, it is. Rao, she and her mom invited me over to thank me for helping Ariri last time. My Sakurajima, alright, but come back early. Toru, ha. My, you're the one most eager for him to return, aren't you? Toru, because of this. Image, the image Toru posted depicted a skin-tight black swimsuit. Ayam Yamagawa, is that clothing? It's so revealing. And strange. Sakobujujima, that's a sakamizu? A school swimsuit often worn by students. Of course, it can also serve as intimate attire. Stella. Frieren, so, my bought herself a set of sakamizu lingerie? Toru, hee, she just bought it today. Yukino shida. Yukino could already picture the noisy scene next door tonight. My Sakurajima. Blushing furiously, my kicked Toru. Why are you spouting nonsense? Toru, however, remained smug. My, you don't get it. Huh? Only by doing this can you ensure Rao comes home tonight. Otherwise, he might just spend the night at Ariri's house. The possibility wasn't zero. After all, there was precedent with Megami Kato. Well, what could Mai do? Toru had already spilled the beans. It wasn't like she could change anything now. Another day of social death in the group chat. Just one more incident in a sea of similar embarrassments. Chapter 137, Rain Incident in the World Group Chat. A question was raised. Yui Uegahama, who is my Sakurajima? Yumiko Miura, you should probably ask Rao about that yourself. Rao, Mai is currently living with me. She's my first girlfriend in this world. I've already met her parents, and I've received her mother's blessing. Yui Uegahama, eh? Yumiko Miura, huh? How is her progress so fast? Megami Kato, actually, Rao has also met my sister, and he received her blessing as well. Sanoko Machida, wow, young people are really something these days. Sanoko Machida, Rao, could you find some time to meet my family too? Utaha Kasamijoka? Of all the people involved, Utaha couldn't hold back when Sanoko suddenly spoke up. Utaha Kasamijoka, are you sure it's a good idea to introduce someone like Rao to your family at your age? Won't they call the police? Sanoko Machida, At her workplace, Sanoko suddenly broke into a cold sweat. It was possible. Her mother might really mistake Rao for some kind of predator. Yui Uegahama felt dejected. Why did it feel like all the competition in this world was so overwhelming? She hadn't even established her relationship with Rao after all these years. And Could this many people really work out? Yukino Shita frowned deeply. In her view, this kind of relationship was problematic, chaotic and outrageous. But she chose to suppress those thoughts. She told herself repeatedly that they weren't normal people and that it wasn't her business. Kobayashi, wow, young people's thoughts are really hard to understand. Kobayashi sighed, while in her spiritual world, Sha was cheering loudly. Little saint, Mom, you should win over Dad. No, I mean on the Aizen. Kobayashi rolled her eyes. Sure, Rei-a was perfect. But she knew there was at least a 6 or 7 year age gap between them. There was no way she could lower her pride enough to pursue him. Still, she admired Sanoko Machida for her courage despite being even older than her. Mabel, what's the point of becoming his girlfriend and meeting his family? Sanoko Machida, I don't know about others, but with Rei-a, it probably means you'll never have to worry about food, and you'll have a very fulfilling life. Mabel, never have to worry about food? Her eyes sparkled, practically bulging out of their sockets. Utaha noticed something odd. Utaha Kasamijoka, Sanoko, you made a typo. It should be happiness. Sanoko Machida, nope, I meant fulfillment. Very fulfilling Utaha Kasamijoka. Yukino Shida. Everyone immediately understood. Utaha's eyelid twitched. Utaha Kasamijoka, Sanoko, are you turning into a horse in heat? Is it really that intense? She was skeptical. But her mind betrayed her as she recalled a night of unrelenting passion. One that hadn't ended until the morning light. Maybe. It was true. Ugh, what am I even thinking? Utaha bit her tongue, snapping herself out of her embarrassing train of thought. The seemingly simple conversation stirred all sorts of emotions and thoughts among the group members. Rei-a did it on purpose. He had no interest in being a sneaky player. He could easily tell that most of the group members, excluding Yukino, Kobayashi, Little Saint, and Mabel, had at least some level of affection for him. He preferred to lay everything out in the open. Even if he built a harem, it would be a transparent, above-board one. No beating around the bush. After closing the chat, Rei-a waited for Ariri after school. Before long, Ariri arrived, cheerful and bright. Are we heading straight to your place? My mom's already bought everything. Let's walk over, she said, nodding shyly. She suggested walking. Not because Rei-a's teleportation was inconvenient, but because she wanted to enjoy the feeling of walking together with him. Rei-a glanced at the sky, which was dotted with dark clouds. We might need to walk a little faster, or we'll get caught in the rain. Boom. The weather changed rapidly. What had been a sky with scattered clouds soon turned into a dark expanse filled with thick storm clouds. In an instant, torrential rain began to pour. Thank goodness we ran fast, we almost got drenched, Ariri said, patting her small, flat chest as she stood outside the front door of her villa. She rang the doorbell. Normally, her mother would answer. However, after waiting for a while, no one came to the door. What's going on? Where's Mom? Ariri muttered, a puzzled expression on her face. She took out a spare key from her bag. Click. The door unlocked. Mom? Ariri called out, but there was no response. Her confusion deepened. She took out a pair of disposable slippers for Rei-a, who declined to change into them and said, "You should check if your mom is home first." All right. Ariri stepped inside and checked every room, but her mother was nowhere to be found. Her expression turned anxious. That's strange. Mom shouldn't take this long to go shopping. No need to panic. Try calling her to check her situation, Rei-a calmly suggested. You're right. Realizing her oversight, Ariri immediately took out her phone and called her mother. After a few rings, the call connected. Hello? Ariri, are you home already? On the other end of the line, Sayuri's voice sounded a bit tired. Yes, I'm back with Rei-a, but we didn't see you here, Ariri replied, her voice tinged with worry. Where are you right now? I twisted my ankle while shopping at the market, and now it's pouring rain. I'm sheltering here for now. I'll bring you an umbrella. Ariri exclaimed, relieved to hear her mother wasn't in any serious trouble. I'll go instead, Rei-a interjected, taking the umbrella from her. It's the X market, right? Yes, that's the one. Ariri nodded but insisted. I'll come with you. No need. You stay home and wait. Sigh, what terrible luck today, Sayuri muttered after ending the call. Sitting alone under a small shelter, she let out a bitter laugh. First, she had twisted her ankle while shopping. Then, the sudden downpour left her drenched to the bone. Now, she was shivering under the cold and relentless rain. The rain was so heavy it blurred her surroundings, creating a hazy curtain of water. With no one else in sight, she could only hope the rain would stop soon. Mrs. Spencer. Suddenly, she heard someone calling her name through the rain. She turned to see a figure holding an umbrella, emerging from the misty downpour. At first, she couldn't make out who it was. But as the person got closer, she recognized the familiar face. "Rao?" Sayuri exclaimed in surprise. Rao approached her with a gentle smile. "I heard about your situation from Ariri, so I came over. The rain was too heavy, so I didn't want Ariri to come herself." He glanced down and immediately noticed her swollen right ankle. "Mrs. Spencer, your sprain looks quite severe. Can you walk?" "No, it's too painful," Sayuri admitted with a shake of her head. She tried to move again. Hiss. The sharp pain made her wince. Rao could have easily healed her injury with elemental or healing magic, but he chose not to. Instead, he crouched down and offered his back to her. "Mrs. Spencer, let me carry you home." "Eh?" Sayuri hesitated, flustered by the offer. I'm soaked through, I'll get your clothes wet," she stammered. "It's just a t-shirt. I can take it off later," Rao replied nonchalantly. "Come on." "All right, then." "Thank you," Sayuri said, still feeling shy as she carefully climbed onto his back. Sayuri hesitated for a moment. Seeing her swollen ankle, it was clear she couldn't walk properly. She carefully got up on one leg and leaned gently onto Rao's broad back. The firmness of his body and the warmth radiating from him made her face flush, her heart beating erratically. "Mrs. Spencer, hold on to your things, and if you don't mind, please handle the umbrella," Rao said calmly. Oh, sure." Snapping out of her daze, Sayuri clutched her belongings and held up the umbrella. The next moment, she felt herself lifted smoothly off the ground as Rao stood up with her on his back. To ensure she wouldn't slip, he adjusted his grip under her knees, hoisting her slightly higher. "Ah!" Sayuri let out a soft gasp, a reflexive reaction to an unexpected sensation. Rao turned his head slightly. "What's wrong?" "And nothing." Sayuri's face turned scarlet. She had just felt an instant of accidental contact with a sensitive spot but knew it wasn't intentional. It was just her body reacting on its own. "All right, let's get going." With steady, confident strides, Rao carried her through the downpour, ensuring she stayed as dry as possible under the umbrella. The only sounds accompanying them were the raindrops pounding on the umbrella and the rhythmic cadence of Rao's breathing. Sayuri could feel the warmth of his back and the firm strength beneath her. Her heart raced uncontrollably, and her flushed face burned even hotter. This level of intimacy with a stranger, albeit a boy, was entirely new to her. Yet, Rao exuded a sense of security that made her feel inexplicably safe. After some time, Rao suddenly stopped in his tracks. Sayuri, startled, lifted her head in nervous anticipation, worried that he might have noticed her abnormal heartbeat. He turned slightly, his profile softened by a gentle smile. "Mrs. Spencer, are you all right? Your heart seems to be racing a bit," he asked, concern evident in his tone. He noticed. Sayuri wanted to find a hole to crawl into. Her voice wavered as she tried to dismiss it. I'm fine. Thank you for your concern. And thank you for coming to get me." Rao chuckled lightly. "No need to thank me, it's the right thing to do." Without saying more, he resumed walking, allowing Sayuri to relax slightly. As she leaned her head gently against his back, a warmth spread through her heart. She never imagined a boy's back could make her feel so safe and at ease. "Mom." At the villa's door, Ariri anxiously waited for Rao's return. When she saw his figure emerging through the rain, she ran out into the storm without hesitation, getting drenched in the process. "Mom, are you okay?" "Ariri," Mrs. Spencer twisted her ankle. "She's fine otherwise, but she's soaked." "Let's get her inside to avoid catching a cold," Rao reminded gently. Oh, right." Realizing the situation, Ariri grabbed the items from her mother's hands and led them inside. Once indoors, Rao carefully set Sayuri down onto a chair. As her foot touched the ground and she left the warmth of his back, Sayuri felt a trace of reluctance. "Ariri, is the hot water ready?" Yes. Ariri nodded eagerly. "I've already filled the bathtub with warm water." "Mrs. Spencer, I recommend taking a hot bath first to prevent catching a cold," Rao advised. He gently took Sayuri's hand and passed her to Ariri for support. "Her right ankle is pretty badly sprained, so help her out, all right?" "Got it." Ariri nodded with surprising obedience, her demeanor so considerate it left Sayuri stunned. Was this really her daughter? "Mom, lean on me. I'll help you." "Ah. Okay." Meanwhile, at the Kato household, the dining table was quiet, the four family members eating their meal in silence. It seemed like any other day. But Hirami Kato couldn't shake the feeling of unease. She felt like she was sitting on pins and needles, her skin crawling under the weight of a particular gaze. Across from her, her younger sister, Megumi Kato, was staring at her intently. Ever since that embarrassing incident, Hirami had been instinctively avoiding Megumi. It was too mortifying. After all, she had spent almost an entire night eavesdropping. And now, it was impossible to reconcile her typically composed sister with the memory of those sweet, breathy moans. As Megami's unwavering gaze bore into her, Hirumi couldn't handle it anymore. Hastily finishing the rice in her bowl, she stood up. "I'm done." She turned to leave. "Wait, Nei-san," Megami's soft voice called out, stopping her in her tracks. "I have something I'd like to ask you. Can you come to my room later?" Hirumi froze mid-step. "Sure, okay," she replied awkwardly, unable to refuse her little sister. Their parents, sitting at the table, didn't find anything unusual. The sisters were always close, after all. Chapter 138, Hirumi's Thoughts, Healing Massage. After a short while, in Megami Kato's bedroom, the two sisters sat across from each other, facing one another. Hirumi Kato had come as promised, but she felt nervous, worried her younger sister would bring up some explosive topic. Like her love life. Even though Hirumi herself enjoyed light gossip, she didn't want to hear her little sister flaunting her relationship when she, the older sister, was still single. That would sting. Feigning casualness, she put on a forced smile and asked, "Megami, are you here to ask me for love advice?" Megami shook her head. "You don't have a boyfriend, you've never held a guy's hand, and you have zero experience. What advice could you possibly give?" Her blunt words landed a direct hit. Hirumi's eyes widened slightly. She wanted to argue but couldn't find the words. The facts hurt. She deflated, muttering, "Megami, are you here just to mock me? That's mean, you know." "It's not to show off," Megami clarified, her voice calm. "I have something important to tell you." "Something important?" "About the hidden world." Shortly after. World group chat, Megami Kato, Rei-ao, "I talked to my sister about it earlier. After careful consideration, she's willing to join the chat group." Rei-ao, "Alright." Sitting on a couch, Rei-ao was slightly surprised by Megami's efficiency. Adding Hirumi Kato to the group was something he did casually, he hadn't expected progress this quickly. "Utaha Kasamijoka? Utaha Kasamijoka, didn't you just mention this afternoon that you were going to bring it up?" She agreed so easily. Hirumi Kato, hello everyone. I'm Hirumi Kato, Megami's sister. Nice to meet you. Sanoko Machida, welcome, welcome. Yukino Shida, welcome. Little Saint, oh no, mommy has another competitor. Kobashi, don't say weird things. Taru, Rei-ao, are you coming home yet? Photo, Taru is clean and ready for you. Taru's post was a steamy, provocative photo, practically oozing with sensuality. Sanoko Machida, wow. Is this world class? Utaha Kasamijoka, forget world class, is it really okay to post something like this in the group? Rei-ao, what's the issue? I like it. Feel free to post more. Utaha Kasamijoka? Yumiko Mura, PFFT. You're such a perv. Yui Uegahama, Does Rei-ao-kun prefer this kind of, full figure? Rei-ao, I like all kinds. Petite can be cute too. As long as it's not completely flat, I'm fine. Yukino Shida. At the dinner table, Mabel glanced up nervously at Yukino. She immediately regretted it as Yukino's icy gaze pierced through her like a blade, radiating frosty pressure. What are you looking at? Are you done eating? Hi. Mabel trembled, bowing her head and quietly finishing her meal. Back in Megami's bedroom, Hirumi Kato was sweating bullets. Megami, you said this was about the hidden world. Why does it now involve things like interdimensional travel? The information was leagues beyond what she'd expected. Megami tilted her head slightly, her calm demeanor unshaken. This is the truth about the world, and also the truth about Rei-ao-kun. Hirumi's lips twitched awkwardly. It was indeed Rei-ao's truth. Not only his dramatic identity but also his tangled romantic affairs. She hesitated before asking cautiously. Megami, I noticed in the chat records. Is this group really just Rei-ao's harem? The chat group's tone felt entirely unserious. Especially after Taru posted that picture, which absolutely should have been flagged. Megami's lips curved into an enigmatic smile. Maybe, someday in the future, it will be? Hirumi suddenly felt as though her little sister had led her straight into a trap. My Sakurajima, Taru, stop posting strange pictures in the group. Taru, TSK, but I even took a photo of you earlier. My Sakurajima, don't you dare post it. My Sakurajima, anyway, Rei-ao, when are you coming home? Rei-ao, I was planning to return tonight, but as you can see, it's pouring outside. Yumiko Mura, don't you know teleportation magic? Rei-ao, well, Ayuri's mom invited me to stay the night. I couldn't refuse her hospitality. Yumiko Mura? Yumiko Mura, and you say you're not a perv? Hey, I never said I wasn't a flirt. Dressed in fresh, clean clothes, Sayuri sat on the couch with Ayuri's help, carefully keeping weight off her injured foot. Boom. Crack. Thunder roared outside, rain pounding hard against the windows. Sayuri spoke up warmly. Ryo-kun, with this awful weather, it's probably not safe for you to head home. Either wait for the rain to stop or just stay the night. We have a guest room. Sure, I'll stay. Ryo accepted the invitation without hesitation. Sayuri smiled but sighed with some regret. I was planning to cook a big meal to thank you, but with my foot like this. Ryo glanced at her injured ankle and suggested. If you don't mind, I can give you a massage to help. A massage? Ayuri blinked in confusion. Massages can only ease pain, right? Sayuri thought the same. She had just checked her ankle. It was swollen badly, and it didn't seem like it would recover in a few days. Ryo walked over and knelt in front of Sayuri. My technique is different, it's worth a try. Seeing his confident and kind demeanor, Sayuri couldn't bring herself to refuse the boy who had already helped her so much. She nodded hesitantly. Ryo sat down and patted his thigh. Mrs. Spencer, place your foot here. Huh? This. Sayuri hesitated. Wouldn't this be too intimate? Especially in front of Ayuri. She glanced at her daughter, only to see Ayuri suddenly light up with excitement. Mom, Ryo-kun wouldn't lie. Hurry and try it. Sayuri was stunned by Ayuri's enthusiasm as she practically pushed her mother toward Ryo. What Sayuri didn't realize was that Ayuri was thinking about Ryo's supernatural abilities. If he said he could help, then he likely meant using some sort of magic to heal her mother. Ayuri was ecstatic about the prospect. Meanwhile, Sayuri misunderstood her daughter's eagerness, thinking she was being sent off. With flushed cheeks, she carefully placed her foot on Ryo's thigh. Like this? Perfect? Ryo calmly examined her delicate, pale foot, completely composed. He reached out and gently placed his hand on the swollen red area of her ankle. Sayuri instinctively tensed, expecting pain. Her muscles tightened involuntarily. But the expected pain never came. Instead, a cool, soothing sensation spread from his touch. Huh? She looked down in surprise. Ryo was calmly pressing and kneading her ankle. Does it hurt? It doesn't hurt at all. Sayuri exclaimed, astonished. Normally, just brushing against her injury would cause intense pain. Ryo smiled faintly. See? I told you my technique is special. Unbeknownst to her, he was discreetly channeling water and light elements to heal and soothe the injury. It might feel a bit intense next. Please bear with it, Sayuri-san. Before Sayuri could fully process his words, Ryo's fingers pressed more firmly. A warm, tingling sensation coursed through her, reaching all the way to her head like an electric current. She bit her lip to stifle a sound, her hands clutching the sofa tightly. Her toes curled reflexively, their pale pink tips quivering. But Ryo didn't stop. His hands worked skillfully, continuing to massage the affected area. Realizing the situation was becoming increasingly embarrassing, Sayuri hastily turned to her daughter. Ayuri, could you go prepare the guest room for Ryo-kun? Oh, okay, Mom. I'll do that right now. Ayuri didn't hesitate. The thought of Ryo staying the night made her eager to help. As soon as Ayuri left, Sayuri whispered urgently to Ryo. Ryo-kun, isn't this a bit too intense? Ryo chuckled. That just means it's working. If it's too much, feel free to express it. It's just a massage, after all. Wait. Sayuri's eyes widened, but before she could stop him, another wave of tingling warmth spread through her body. A soft, involuntary moan escaped her lips. With the first sound released, she found it impossible to hold back anymore. Her soft, melodic gasps filled the room as Ryo's hands continued their work. From the outside, anyone who overheard might have gotten the wrong idea. Chapter 139, Ayuri joining the chat group. Night raid happenings. Mom, I've finished tidying up. Ayuri ran out excitedly, ready to report that she had prepared the guest room. However, what she saw was her mother, Sayuri, walking out of the main bedroom wearing a fresh dress. Huh? Ayuri was momentarily puzzled by her mother's change of clothes, but soon her attention was drawn to something more shocking. Her mother's previously injured foot. Mom. Your ankle. Sayuri's swollen and red ankle was now perfectly normal, the swelling completely gone. It's healed, Ayuri muttered, realizing Ryo's massage must have been effective. Sayuri hesitated, her breath catching as she scrambled to explain. Her fingers nervously tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, and she avoided eye contact with a flushed face. Forcing a smile, she replied lightly. Yes, that's right. My ankle is all better now, thanks to Ryo-kun's massage. As she mentioned the massage, Sayuri's cheeks turned an even deeper shade of red. She quickly tried to change the subject, afraid Ariri might press her further and discover something amiss. Since my foot is fine now, I'll go ahead and prepare the big dinner. With that, Sayuri hurriedly made her way to the kitchen. When she glanced back and met Rao's faintly amused gaze, her neck and ears turned scarlet. The massage had indeed been astonishingly effective. Not only had the swelling disappeared, but there was no lingering pain. However, Sayuri couldn't shake the memory of how intense the sensation had been. It wasn't just a massage, it had been an experience that left her embarrassed and flustered. Once in the kitchen, she found herself overcome with shame, as if ants were crawling over her skin. Meanwhile, Rao watched her retreat into the kitchen before turning to Ariri, who had walked over cautiously. Rao-kun, did you use some kind of special ability? She asked in a small voice. Rao nodded. I did. He didn't elaborate, understanding that Sayuri would prefer to keep the details private. Thank you so much. Ariri beamed at him, her expression filled with joy. Then, an awkward silence settled over the room. Ariri seemed hesitant, wanting to say something but unable to muster the courage. Every so often, she would sneak glances at Rao's face, only to lower her head quickly. Her fidgety behavior didn't escape Rao's notice. Catching her gaze as she stole another look, he turned to her with a warm smile. Ariri, you've been glancing at me and hesitating for a while now. Is there something you want to say? Ah. Ariri jumped in surprise, her face flushing bright red as if she had been caught red-handed. Her small frame shrank in embarrassment, and she stammered for a few seconds before finally managing to speak. Rao-kun. I've been meaning to ask you something for a while now. What is it? Ariri took a deep breath, gathering her courage. Do you dislike otakus? Her question was filled with anxiety, and her heart pounded as she awaited his answer. Rao didn't seem surprised by the question, but his response left her puzzled. I both dislike and don't dislike them. Huh? Rao shrugged. I don't dislike normal otakus. But those who are die-hard, obsessive types. What you'd call hardcore otakus. I don't particularly like. He paused briefly before adding. The best example would be someone like Tomoyaki, one of the so-called 10 weirdos at school. Ariri nodded, beginning to understand. If someone enjoys being an otaku as a personal hobby without bothering others, I have no problem with that. Mutual respect is the foundation of any interaction, whether someone is an otaku or not. Oh, I get it now. With a clear example, Ariri relaxed, a sense of relief washing over her. Thank goodness I'm not a hardcore otaku. She hesitated for a moment before shyly asking another question. Then, what do you think about genshai and jin artists? Rao's expression turned serious, causing Ariri to tense up. She thought he was about to criticize them harshly, calling them vulgar or inappropriate. But then, Rao gave her a thumbs up and declared confidently, they're the unsung heroes, the teachers of the masses. Ariri froze for a moment before bursting into laughter. PFFT, haha. What's with that answer? The tension in the air dissipated instantly. You're more easygoing than I thought, Rao-kun. I was worried you'd be strict and uptight. Rao shrugged. I'm pretty easygoing. The only thing about me that's hard to change is my appreciation for beauty. Ariri tilted her head, a playful glint in her eyes. But why don't I feel like you're interested in me at all? Rao smirked, meeting her gaze. Don't misunderstand. I think you're very cute, Ariri. You're as fresh as an apple. But even a wolf has to take its time when approaching a maiden. What? Ariri's face turned crimson again. She quickly looked away, flustered. A maiden? Me? You're exaggerating. Lost in her embarrassment, she completely overlooked the part where Rao admitted to being a wolf. Ariri's mind was filled with Rao's praise, leaving her feeling lightheaded and elated. But after a quick cough, she straightened her expression and returned to the topic at hand. Rao-kun, actually. I'm a genshai artist. She stared directly into his eyes, trying to read his reaction and see if he truly didn't mind her profession. Rao, however, remained calm and composed. Oh, I figured. Ariri froze in shock. Figured? He already knew? Rao explained. I've known about your identity for a while. What? Ariri stood there, dumbfounded. She had agonized over whether or not to reveal this secret for so long. To find out that Rao already knew and didn't care made her feel utterly foolish for all her internal struggles. She puffed her cheeks in frustration and muttered. That's so unfair. You know everything about me, but I know so little about you. Rao chuckled. Are you saying you want to get to know me better? Yes. But. Ariri hesitated. What if you're not as good as I imagine? Even so, I still want to know. Her determination was clear. Rao's smile widened. All right. If you're sure, I'll satisfy your curiosity. Ding. You have chosen Ariri as a target and granted her a sub-chat group. Ariri suddenly froze as the notification sounded in her mind. Meanwhile, the new name in the world group chat didn't go unnoticed. In the world group chat Utaha Kasamijouka, did anyone notice a new name added? It seems oddly familiar. Lying on her bed, wearing sleepwear, Utaha lazily scrolled through the chat. The storm outside made her already bored mood even worse. Her eyes landed on the name. Ariri? The first thought that came to her mind was the Jinchai artist Ariri Spencer Sawamura. Wait a second. Didn't Rei-Al mention he's staying at her house tonight? Miro Yumiko, I knew it. This was bound to happen. Sanoko Machida, as expected of Rei-Al-kun. Mai Sakurajima. Back at Ariri's house, she was utterly dumbfounded. Turning to Rei-Al, her expression was filled with disbelief, as if asking, "Is this real?" Rei-Al patted her shoulder with a smile. "Stay calm. It's all real." He glanced toward the kitchen. "By the way, your mom is looking this way. Act natural." Ariri's body stiffened like a statue. But no matter how much she tried, her mind couldn't calm down. A chat group. Is this even possible? She quickly fell into silence, focused on processing this surreal development. Rei-Al let her be, giving her space to explore the chat group on her own. Elsewhere, the Night Raid base, a tense atmosphere filled the meeting room as members of Night Raid gathered. Najenda, holding a letter, looked visibly distressed. "Boss, what now?" One of the members couldn't help but ask. Najenda took a deep breath before announcing grimly, "The Revolutionary Army is launching its final assault." "What? What should we do?" Mine was stunned, caught off guard by the sudden decision. Kurom tugged on Akam's hand. "Sister, please don't participate in this battle." Her tone wasn't one of conflict over allegiances but rather concern. "The Empire is too dangerous. You'll die." Ever since being saved by Rei-Al, Kurom had started living for herself again, no longer shackled by the Empire's brainwashing. Akam, however, remained resolute. "But we have to overthrow the Empire." Her determination was unshaken. She wanted to change the Empire from the bottom of her heart. Kurom fell silent for a moment before taking her sister's hand firmly. "Then I'll go with you, no matter what." Kurom. Elsewhere in the room, Sheil frowned. "Do we really have to ally with the foreign tribes?" Her question deepened the somber atmosphere. Najenda, too, looked conflicted. At one time, she had sympathized with the plight of the foreign tribes. But after a few words from Rei-Al, she had came to realize that the conflict between the Empire and these tribes was more akin to a racial war. One not easily resolved. "So, I want to hear your thoughts," Najenda finally said, scanning the room. "Let's vote. Raise your hand if you support allying with the Revolutionary Army and the tribes to attack the Empire." The room fell silent. After a pause, Lubbock slowly raised his hand. "Our goal is to overthrow the Empire. We need their strength to do that, don't we?" Bullet, however, shook his head in opposition. "The tribes are dangerous. They're not just hostile to the Empire but also cruel to innocent citizens." She laughed. "It's true. Their methods could lead to disaster. Aligning with them might be inviting a wolf into the fold." Leon nodded. "I agree. It's too risky." As the room leaned toward opposition, Najenda sighed heavily, realizing just how precarious their situation had become. Chapter 140, Night Raid Trade with Rei-Al. Chelsea suddenly raised her hand. Not to agree with allying with the foreign tribes but to share her perspective. "Actually, I've spent some time at the Revolutionary Army's headquarters. It's not as perfect as it seems." "What do you mean?" Mine asked curiously. Chelsea scratched her head awkwardly and said bitterly. "There's a lot of infighting, and some people have ambitions for a certain position." "What position?" "Don't leave us hanging." Mine complained, feeling her curiosity itch unbearably. Najenda's single eye narrowed, her expression heavy. "Are you saying someone wants to become the Emperor?" Chelsea nodded repeatedly. Bang. Leon slammed her fist heavily on the table. "What the hell? Isn't the Revolutionary Army supposed to fight for the people? Why are they aiming for the Emperor's throne?" "This is dangerous," Akam said with a frown. "If even the Revolutionary Army was pursuing power and wealth, overthrowing the Empire would only replace it with a new version of the same corruption. All of Night Raid's efforts would be meaningless." Seeing the heavy mood, Najenda took a deep breath. "My decision is that Night Raid will not move. However, I won't stop any of you from making your own choices." Lubbock was the first to object. "Why not? This is our best chance to topple the Empire." Najenda glared at him, her voice firm. "I've made my decision. If you want to go, you can. The enemy won't stop your freedom to choose." Lubbock stared at Najenda in frustration, feeling as though he no longer recognized the leader he admired and secretly loved. Clenching his fists until his nails dug into his palms, he rasped out. Fine. If you won't go, I will. He turned to leave, his voice hoarse with anger. Sigh. Bullet sighed deeply. I'll go with him. He couldn't let Lubbock go to his death alone. As the two left, the remaining members turned their attention to Najunda. Leon couldn't hold back. Are we really going to do nothing? This battle will kill many people, including civilians, Sheil said worriedly. Najunda shook her head. No. She took a deep breath and said. We have another option. Rayao. And his trades. Back at the Sawamura residence, thanks to Sayuri's efforts, Rayao and Ariri enjoyed a sumptuous dinner together. In the kitchen, Rayao helped wash the dishes alongside Sayuri. Mrs. Sawamura, your cooking is excellent, Rayao complimented without hesitation. Sayuri beamed. Haha, I'm glad you liked it. I was worried the flavors might not suit your taste. Her happiness was palpable, being praised for her cooking was always a delight. But then Rayao suddenly asked a sharp question, Mrs. Sawamura, why haven't I seen Ariri's father in the house? Sayuri's hands paused, and her breath hitched almost imperceptibly. Rayao's sharp observation didn't miss it, confirming his suspicion that something was off. It wasn't that he wanted to pry unnecessarily. It was just that he had encountered two other peculiar mother figures before, Yuriko Takagi and Mai's mother. Both were revealed to be fake mothers. Now, in the Sawamura household, he hadn't seen Ariri's father at all, nor had either of them mentioned him. Sensing something amiss, he decided to probe while Ariri wasn't around. Sayuri's response confirmed his suspicion. Her expression turned somber. Rayao-kun, this is a secret. Another secret? You're not Ariri's mother, are you? Rayao blurted out. Crash. The sound of a plate falling echoed through the kitchen. Sayuri had dropped it. She hurried to catch it but missed. Instead, Rayao reached out swiftly, catching the plate. However, in the process, his hand brushed against hers. The brief contact made Sayuri's entire body shiver. When their eyes met, Sayuri's knees went weak. The atmosphere felt strange, but Sayuri couldn't bring herself to look away. Especially as Rayao leaned in slightly and pressed her. Am I right? His proximity made Sayuri's face flush red. Staring into Rayao's eyes, Sayuri felt as though her body couldn't lie. Even though it was a secret. Just as she was about to speak. Boom. A deafening thunderclap roared across the sky. Mom, Rayao-kun, what are you two doing? Ariri's voice broke through the charged atmosphere. She stood at the kitchen doorway, looking at the two with puzzled eyes. Sayuri froze, clearly flustered, while Rayao remained calm. He held up a plate in his hand and explained. Mrs. Sawamura almost dropped a dish just now, so I helped catch it. Oh. Ariri nodded, then lightly scolded her mother. Mom, be careful, okay? Don't trouble Rayao-kun. Oh. Sayuri's awkward and soft response made Ariri furrow her brows in confusion. Normally, her mother would have teased her with a playful grin. Could it be that she felt restrained because Rayao-kun was present? Realizing her casual attitude might leave a poor impression on Rayao, especially when compared to the elegant competition in the chat group, Ariri panicked. After learning about the group, Ariri had spent hours feeling down. She had realized she liked Rayao. But the boy she adored was already involved with other women. And not just romantically, but intimately as well. A rational person might see Rayao as a playboy, but Ariri's slightly idealistic, love-struck mindset took over. Rayao's been corrupted by them, it's my job to purify him. To her, those women were nothing but cunning foxes, and Rayao was her radiant moonlight. Determined, Ariri resolved to showcase her own charm and reclaim Rayao. Should I act more reserved? She thought to herself, quickly excusing herself to change into a more elegant and appealing outfit. As Ariri left, Sayuri heaved a sigh of relief. She was terrified that Ariri might have noticed her odd behavior. The kitchen was no longer a safe haven. Sayuri came to a conclusion. Rayao's charisma was too strong for her to resist. If she stayed any longer, she might reveal her secret. Hurriedly finishing the dishes, Sayuri turned to Rayao. Rayao-kun, I'm feeling a bit tired. You should rest early too. Leaving those words behind, she quickly retreated. Rayao didn't stop her. Even though she hadn't answered his question, her expression and body language had already confirmed his suspicions. Sayuri wasn't Ariri's biological mother. By rights, Ariri should have a diplomat father, so where did things go wrong? He couldn't piece together the full story yet, but he filed the mystery away for another time. Peering out at the stormy weather through the window, Rayao made his way to the guest room Ariri had prepared. No sooner had he sat down on the bed than a flurry of notifications appeared. Ding. ICOM has sent a trade request. Ding. Mine has sent a trade request. Ding. Sheil has sent a trade request. Ding. Najunda has sent a trade request, ding. Leon has sent a trade request, ding. Chelsea has sent a trade request. 6 identical requests came from Night Raid members. Trade objective, overthrow the Empire, ding. Please specify the trade terms. In the same instant, Najunda posted the message in the Acom World group. Najunda, Rayao, remember our previous discussions? Rayao, of course. Najunda, the Revolutionary Army has launched its final assault on the Empire. I hope you'll help overthrow it. Najunda, in return, Night Raid will pledge itself to you, and you'll become the new Emperor of the Empire. Rayao, oh? No objections from the rest of Night Raid? Acom, none. Mine, just a tiny objection. Does it have to be a physical trade? Leon, seriously, mine? Are you still hesitating at this point? Mine, I'm not hesitating. It's just that I've never even been in a relationship before, and suddenly becoming someone's property feels weird. Acom, don't worry. Rayao will make it enjoyable. Mine, Acom, what the heck are you talking about? I don't want it to be enjoyable. Shiel, mine, think of it this way. Mine, what way? Shiel, Rayao saved your life. Do you hate him? Mine, well. No, I don't hate him. It's just. He's such a shameless flirt. Rayao, that's called being a man. Mine. Shiel, if you don't hate him, why not try liking him? Then it'll feel more like a relationship. Mine. Chelsea, I can't believe my first major mission with Night Raid is something like this. Rayao, since you're all ready, let's begin the trade. Chapter 141, Annexing the Empire? Inviting people to join the fun. Outside Night Raid space, members of the team watched as figures began to appear one after another. Leading them was Rayao, flanked by an unexpectedly large group. Behind him stood 13 individuals with whom he had already been intimate. Except as Deeth. And 3 more who hadn't yet crossed that line, Shizu Aizawa, Velzard, and Velgrund. Shizu smiled gently. Rayao-kun, I can lend a hand too. Velgrund crossed her arms with a disdainful smirk. This planet doesn't even have a single calamity-level life form. Why not just burn it all down at once? Her evaluation of this world was scathing. Pathetic weaklings, not even a demon lord-level threat among them. Rayao's expression flickered when he saw Velzard and Velgrund but quickly steadied. Velgrund, please don't scare them. Night Raid's members visibly tensed. Burn the planet down? That was far beyond anything they had anticipated. Their goal was simply to overthrow the Empire's rule and free its people from oppression, not to annihilate the entire world. Velgrund scoffed, raising her head proudly. I thought this world might offer some fun, but it's just full of weaklings. Velzard nodded in agreement, though with less hostility. This planet is indeed pathetically frail. Rayao sighed, shaking his head. I didn't expect the two of you to show up. If either of them made a move, the Empire, the Revolutionary Army, and even the invading races would be reduced to ashes in an instant. There would be no game left to play. For now, Rayao had other plans. Primarily to give some of his companions like Yumiko a taste of blood and conflict to toughen them up. You two should focus on the dangerous creatures scattered across this world. Feel free to take them out. This planet is at your disposal in that regard. Velgrund's interest was piqued. Well, as weak as they are, some might make decent appetizers. Velzard raised a slender finger and pointed at Taru. Bring her with us. Taru flinched at the sudden mention of her name. She had remained silent since arriving, overwhelmed by the pressure radiating from Velzard and Velgrund. Dragons far more powerful than even her father. Taru looked to Rayao with pitiful eyes, silently pleading for help. But Rayao simply chuckled. Taru, you're all dragons. Spending time with them will do you good. He had already blessed Taru, strengthening her abilities. Name, Taru, level, 50, abilities, Flame Dragon. Dragon Magic. Rayao's blessing. Inherent device, Dragon King. The Dragon King armament was a massive sword whose weight could be adjusted at will. Seeing no escape, Taru reluctantly approached Velzard and Velgrund. The two dragons placed their hands on her shoulders, their contrasting expressions of amusement and menace making Taru's scales crawl. Velgrund smirked wickedly. Sneaky little dragon, let's have a nice, long chat. Ah. With a flash, the 3 dragons vanished. Rayao turned to Najunda. When will the Revolutionary Army and the foreign forces reach the capital? Najunda answered. In about 3 hours. Rayao nodded, then turned to Yumiko and the others. For someone like Sako, what was coming posed little challenge. But for newcomers like Megumi Kato, it was a different story. Are you all mentally prepared? Prepared for what? To kill. The group's expressions wavered. Yumiko took a deep breath and spoke first. The Empire's rule is a scourge on its people. Taking action to eliminate it Isn't that just justice? Rao nodded approvingly. That's a good mindset. But there's no need to force yourselves. Even if you just stand aside and observe, that's perfectly fine. Sanoko Machida hesitated. Rao-kun. You wouldn't mind us just being ornamental? Rao's smile turned mischievous. What's wrong with ornaments? At least I can use them to arrange flowers. The implication behind his words dawned on them instantly, and their faces flushed red. The tension in the air eased, and Rao gazed toward the distant horizon. Since the Revolutionary Army won't arrive for a few hours, let's prepare a little surprise for them. The capital. Inside the Imperial Palace's main hall. The morbidly obese Prime Minister trembled with rage, his flabby body jiggling as he glared at Asdeath, who stood proudly before him. Asdeath, the Emperor has ordered you to lead the army against the Revolutionary Army. Why are you defying this command? The minister was panicking. News of the Revolutionary Army's million-strong forces had spread throughout the capital, throwing the populace into turmoil. With General Do dead, only Asdeath had the strength and authority to counter the Revolutionary Army. But when the young emperor issued the order, Asdeath had refused to mobilize her forces. She not only ignored the command but also issued her own strict order for her troops to remain inactive. Asdeath's soldiers were fiercely loyal to her alone. Without her command, even orders from the Prime Minister or Emperor were meaningless. The minister feared the worst. That Asdeath might stage a rebellion. If that happened, their only remaining option would be to use the Empire's last hidden trump card. Ding. Trade initiated, trade target, mine, trade details, overthrow the Empire, trade terms, Roman artillery, pumpkin, one-time bodily trade rights, stay duration, 3 hours. This was immediately followed by 6 similar transaction alerts in the main group chat, causing an uproar. Ayamamagawa, 6 trades at once? Frieren, overthrowing the Empire. It seems a war to topple the ruling power has begun. Stella, what's going on, Akam? Akam, the Revolutionary Army is launching an all-out assault on the Empire. However, they've allied with foreign forces, and Nitrade cannot stand idly by. Frieren, abandoning the self for the greater good? Akam, not just that. Rao will become the new emperor of the Empire. Suai, huh? Megami Kato, emperor? Stella, are you selling the country out to him or something? Rao, selling out? That's a bit much. I just want to try the title for fun. The actual governance will still be left to people from their world. Rao, anyway, stop overthinking it. This deal is interesting. Anyone want to come and watch? Rao, oh, and to Megami, Yumiko, and the rest of my people. You should consider it too. Megami Kato, why? Rao, people will die. A lot of them. I want you to witness and maybe even try. It could be a chance to grow. My Sakurajima, killing people? The chat grew quiet as names like Utaha Kasamijoka and the others stilled. For them, killing had always seemed distant and unreal. Yukino Shida, isn't there another way? Akam, the Empire's corruption and darkness can only be cleansed with blood. Rao, the choice is yours. I'll also be live streaming the whole thing soon. Watch if you want. Back in the palace, the puppet emperor, inflamed by the Prime Minister's goading, grew indignant. Asdeath, I command you to gather your army at once to defend the Empire from the Revolutionary Army's threat. It was a direct imperial order, issued before numerous officials and nobles. By all accounts, Asdeath should have obeyed. Instead, she coldly smirked. The fate of the Empire has nothing to do with me. The only one who can command me now is him. The court was stunned. Him? The minister's voice quivered with fear. He had long suspected Asdeath was up to something. She had been ignoring summons from the Emperor since her return to the capital. But now it was clear. She had a new master. Was it Night Raid? The Revolutionary Army? Cold sweat poured down the minister's back. He wanted no part in crossing Asdeath, knowing it would mean a gruesome death. Even with the Empire's hidden trump card, he was already plotting his escape. At that moment, a voice echoed throughout the capital. From this day forth, the Empire shall fall. I am your new emperor. Submit and thrive. Resist and perish. Asdeath's eyes gleamed. He is here, she whispered with a smile. High above the capital, atop a towering spire, several figures stood against the wind. The chat group exploded with reactions to Rao's broadcasted proclamation. Frieren, a war declaration? Rao, no, just an announcement. Stella, you sound so confident. Surely an Empire this vast has some secret weapons? Akam, there are Tegu users, as well as Najanda's mention of royal arms users. Rao, more than that, the Empire's greatest trump cards are Asdeath and something called the Supreme Imperial Arm. Frieren, Asdeath? Didn't you already conquer her? Akam, Supreme Imperial Arm? I've never heard of it. Reao, it doesn't matter. It's nothing worth mentioning. Chapter 142, Baptism in Blood. Yukino Shida. Reao, I have a question. Reao, go ahead. Yukino Shida, are you going to eliminate the Empire's soldiers or the Revolutionary Army? My Sakurajima, what are you saying? Reao isn't a devil. Megami Kato, I believe Reao knows what he's doing. Reao, I don't plan to kill everyone indiscriminately. Reao, I've made it very clear. Submit and thrive, resist and perish. Reao, if they refuse to surrender, then killing them is justified. Taru, well said. That's exactly how the strong should act. Sakobujujima, I agree with Reao. If they've chosen to oppose us, it's either them or us. Yukino Shida. For the first time, Yukino witnessed a side of Reao beyond his usual flirtatious demeanor. A dominant, unyielding force. It wasn't complicated. He acted because he had the strength to do so. It was her first glimpse of the harsh reality of survival of the fittest in another world. Yamagawa, Reao, they're coming out. Looking down, they saw movement. From atop the palace's high platform, the minister emerged. His expression was a mix of terror and severity as he looked down at Hasdeeth, who strode out from the palace, surrounded by layers of soldiers. Behind her followed Imperial arms users, ministerial arms users, and numerous troops converging on the scene. Hasdeeth had defected. It was an unimaginable betrayal. Kill her. The minister shrieked. He was too cowardly to act himself but bold enough to bark orders. Oh? Perhaps you should worry about yourself first. A chilling smirk crossed Reao's face. Whoosh! Flames erupted, encircling the minister. What? He toppled to the ground in terror, his flabby body trembling as he sat within the ring of fire. He couldn't comprehend where this mysterious fire had come from. Meanwhile, Reao crossed his arms and turned to the women behind him. Anyone carrying a weapon is the enemy. Handle it as you see fit. Suai, Shizu, and Kirano, you don't need to act. This was meant as a trial for Yumiko and the others. If the stronger allies intervened, the purpose would be lost. Nadanda reacted first. Night Raid, follow me. Charge. She leapt from the tower, with Leon and the other members of Night Raid following closely behind. As for Mai and the others, Reao transported them directly to the battlefield. He gave only one instruction, kill or don't kill. It's up to you. I won't interfere. Enemies incoming. As soon as they landed, they found themselves surrounded by Imperial soldiers. Among the group, Yamagawa and Kajika, who had prior experience in killing during the Kobanrai conflict, were the first to react. Without hesitation, they unleashed their abilities. Scales formed over their bodies as they transformed. Ayam summoned her unique spiritual weapon, an ice bow. Whoosh! Arrows flew, exploding into icy shards that impaled dozens of soldiers in an instant. Kajika wielded her unique short blade. Red flame, dashing through the enemy lines with flames roaring around him, cutting down one foe after another. For Mai and the others, who had never taken a life, the gruesome scene paralyzed them. The smell of blood, the sight of intestines spilling out. It was overwhelming. Yumiko turned pale and began to gag. Do we really have to kill humans? Saya Takagi muttered, her face ashen. She had no issue killing zombies, but taking a human life was entirely different. Mai, Yumiko, and the rest were similarly frozen in fear. Their hesitation didn't go unnoticed. An enemy soldier shouted. They don't have Imperial arms. A wave of soldiers charged toward them, sensing an easy victory. Meanwhile, Akam and the others faced tougher opponents. The newly formed Jaggers squadron had already engaged. Akam's opponent was their leader, Wave, wielding the Imperial arm Grand Chariot. Leon faced Bowles, with his Imperial arm Rubicant. Mine, Shiel, and Chelsea found themselves up against Cern, who wielded the monstrous Hecatonchires. Zuko went head-to-head with Dr. Stylish, who controlled corpses using glorious hands of God, Perfector. Ayam and Kajika targeted Run, who flew through the battlefield using the Imperial arm Mastema. Reao stood atop the tower, overlooking the chaos below. A faint smirk appeared as he muttered to himself, let the trial begin. Soldiers aren't fools. The battles happening elsewhere were far beyond the reach of ordinary people. Thus, adhering to the philosophy of bullying the weak and avoiding the strong, they set their sights on Mai and her group, who seemed easier targets. Regardless of their weakness, killing any one of them would count as an achievement. Who knows? They might even be rewarded after the war. Perhaps even elevated to minor nobility, granting them a life of luxury and indulgence. That's how most of them thought. From the bottom to the top, the empire had rotted to its core. Be careful, they're coming. Yuriko Takagi raised her unique spiritual weapon. A sci-fi styled handgun. And warned the others. Hey! This one's mine. A heavily armored soldier wielding a massive axe charged at Saya Takagi. Saya's eyes widened in terror. On instinct, she enveloped her arm with dragon scales in an attempt to block the strike. But before the axe could land, a spear whizzed through the air. Thud. The armored soldier flew backward, blood gushing from his chest as he crashed into several others like a bowling ball. The spear had come from Rei Miyamoto. The tip of her spear swirled with wind elemental power. She glanced back coldly at Saya. Don't just stand there. If you can't handle it, maybe you should stay a flower vase waiting to be filled. She then turned away and charged into the fray. Saya stood frozen, staring at Rei's retreating figure. As Death leaped from below, landing gracefully beside Rei atop the tower. She glanced at Mai and the others, her sharp eyes assessing their hesitation. The people you brought don't seem ready to kill. As Death's tone carried mild disdain, as she found no interest in the weak soldiers below. Rei shrugged casually. They're not born warriors or soldiers. Just ordinary people who happen to gain power. But I trust they'll find their own path. These words sent a shiver through Megami Kato and the others, who were watching the live stream from the chat group. His faith in them warmed their hearts. Mai and Megami Kato exchanged glances, both nodding slightly. They activated their abilities, vanishing from everyone's sight. Moments later. Ugh! Soldiers began collapsing one after another, their throats slashed. Mai and Megami Kato had taken their first lives. Their hearts raced, and dizziness threatened to overtake them, but they steadied themselves. Their enemies, they told themselves. Just like killing the dangerous beasts from before. This thought helped them push through the discomfort. Yuriko Takagi fired her pure soul gun, taking down another soldier. Saya. Hearing her mother's call, Saya brought out her inherent device, Transformation Cube, which morphed into a Gatling gun. She adjusted her glasses with newfound resolve. Mother, don't underestimate me. Transforming into her fire spirit form, she channeled fire elemental power into the Gatling gun and pressed the trigger. Ra-da-da-da-da-da-da. A hail of bullets erupted, lighting up the battlefield as she decimated waves of enemies. For a moment, her valiant figure shone with unparalleled brilliance. Sanoko Machida, meanwhile, took a deep breath and approached Yumeko, who was still gagging. She gently patted her back. Yumeko, are you alright? If it's too much, you can. Before she could finish, Yumeko raised a hand to interrupt her. No. Yumeko stood, her gaze locking onto Rei atop the tower, determination burning in her eyes. I'm not someone who gives up that easily. Black and white ceremonial robes materialized around her as she raised her hand, condensing light into a laser. Her eyes focused on a soldier who had slipped past Mai and Megami's attacks. Zing. The laser shot out, piercing through the soldier and melting his armor. Sanoko pursed her lips at the sight. If even the younger ones are pushing forward, I can't stay idle. With a flourish, she summoned wind elemental blades, slicing through multiple soldiers in a series of violent, precise strikes. As Death, observing the transformation of the once terrified group, couldn't hide her surprise. Looks like you'll need to take back your earlier statement, Rei-Ao said with a faint smile, his eyes never leaving the battlefield. As Death turned to him, her gaze sharp. Indeed. They seem to be changing. For you. She could sense it. Their desire to improve, driven by their connection to Rei-Ao. That's right, he said, watching as each of them began adapting to the rhythm of battle. I'll have to reward them properly for this. A satisfied smile spread across his face. Flower vases may be beautiful and delicate, but Rei-Ao preferred ones that could endure. Strong flower vases could handle more than just decoration. They could provide practical support when needed. And they could handle a stronger touch. After all, in the end, the one who benefited most was him. Chapter 143, Shikeout Taser, One Punch. Rei-Ao's perspective on flower vases wasn't limited to Mai and her group. It extended to others in the chat group as well. The blood-soaked chaos in the imperial capital continued to stream live for all to see. Stella, TCH. So many people are dying. Fryron, this is war. Mabel, ugh. What's so good about all this fighting and killing? The chat group was quieter than usual. Those engaged in battle focused on survival, while the rest watched the broadcast in stunned silence. Snow filled Yukino's heart. The scenes of carnage on her screen were like a high-definition action movie, except that it was all real. Knowing that this was a real world where lives were being taken left her hands and feet icy cold, her head spinning with faint nausea. Uncomfortable, she temporarily left the live stream. Needing to talk, she stood, opened her door, and walked to Mabel's guest room. Yukino? What are you doing here? Keep me company. Huh? Don't tell me you're scared. Megami. Watching Megumi effortlessly take lives on the battlefield, Hiramikato finally understood why her sister had so gravely asked if she could accept the realities of a world filled with supernatural forces. Because that world was merciless. Gulp. Yutaha Kazumidjoka's hands trembled as she clutched a water glass, struggling to calm herself. She had abandoned her attempt to write, too shaken by the broadcast. She couldn't believe her editor, Sanoko, could slaughter people with such ease. The Sanoko she had once seen hesitate to kill a snow wolf was now summoning storms, shredding soldiers with wind blades, scattering their remains like a gruesome rain. Is this still the same person? The one struggling the most was Ariri. She had seen Tomoyaki's body split in half, but even that hadn't prepared her for the battlefield's brutality. Curled under her blanket, she trembled uncontrollably. Thoughts of being held in Rao's protective embrace flashed in her mind. Unable to resist, she crept out of her room, tiptoeing into Rao's. Slipping into his bed, she sighed softly. Ah! The faint scent of Rao's presence lingered in the room, calming her. What she didn't know was that in the living room, someone was watching. Sayuri saw Ariri sneak into Rao's room. This. She hesitated, unsure whether to intervene. They were young and alone. Surely, this could lead to something improper. The battle for the imperial capital was intense on the surface but ultimately one-sided. Night Raid's clash with the Jaggers was balanced, but Shizu dispatched Dr. Stylish and his undead-like creations with ease. Ayame and Kajika quickly defeated Run and turned their attention to mowing down soldiers. The tide shifted entirely in Night Raid's favor. Even Mai and the others adapted to the chaos, unleashing their true powers. Even Yumiko and the others found themselves leveling up, growing stronger amid carnage. The Empire, deprived of both Do and teeth, was like a wild dog with no fangs. The minister, trapped in a ring of fire, panicked. How? How is this possible? So many new Imperial Arms users. And all of them are unfamiliar. He tried to escape the flames but screamed as his skin and fat sizzled. No. This can't be happening. I can't die here. Not before the Revolutionary Army even arrives. Eyes bulging, the minister roared in desperation, Your Majesty, it's time to act. Sitting on the high tower, Sui cast a disdainful glance at the minister. So, that's the minister Akam and the others spoke of? Truly disgusting. Rao chuckled. Disgusting, yes, but I still have plans for him. He turned his gaze toward the Imperial Palace. First, though, we need to deal with the ultimate Imperial Arms. Suddenly, the entire city trembled. What's happening? Everyone paused, looking toward the source of the disturbance. The Imperial Palace shook violently. With a deafening crash, a colossal steel giant emerged from the shattered walls. Do not panic. I am here. The giant's speakers amplified the Emperor's voice as he appeared in the massive machine. Seeing the ultimate Imperial Arms at last, the minister's face lit up with joy. Ha! You're all doomed. He cackled madly, tears streaming down his face. That's the ultimate Imperial Arms, Shikao Taser. His mood soared to its peak as the tide seemed to turn. He knew the Empire had to win. This was the Empire's first and strongest Imperial Arm, the origin of all others. The ultimate Imperial Arm was the pinnacle of all Imperial Arms, referred to as the Ultimate Arms. Legend claimed it possessed power comparable to that of the gods. It could only be wielded by someone of Imperial blood. The Ultimate Imperial Arm? Najunda furrowed her brow. This was the legendary weapon Rao had mentioned in the chat group. Ha ha ha. Your Majesty, kill them all. With a Shikao Taser supporting him, the minister regained his arrogance. The blubbery man stood up, shaking his folds of fat in excitement. Whoosh! The flames surrounding him scorched his skin again, making him yelp. Wait. No, save me first. Your Majesty, please save me. He flailed about, realizing that if he wasn't saved, he'd be roasted alive. All invaders of the Empire, surrender now, and you shall be spared. The young emperor tried to negotiate. He truly didn't want to kill anyone, he was just a child, after all. But the minister scowled, unhappy with the emperor's soft approach. Your Majesty, they're heinous criminals, Night Raid assassins. You must execute them all. The minister's paranoia wouldn't let him rest until they were all dead. Fine. Shikao Taser, kill all intruders. As the emperor was a puppet under the minister's influence, he obediently activated the Shikao Taser. Damn it. That thing's huge. With a deafening roar, Mine blasted one of the monstrous dog-shaped Imperial Arms into pieces. Even with Shield and Chelsea's assistance, defeating that regenerating abomination had been challenging enough. The thought of dealing with something as massive as the Shikao Taser made her face pale. As Deeth, meanwhile, observed the ultimate Imperial Arm with interest. She'd never seen it before. Should I step in? Rao glanced at her and chuckled. I can see you're itching for a fight. Azith's smile was unrestrained. She truly loved battle. Rao shrugged. When Taru and the others return, you can spar with them. As for this toy, let me take care of it. Without waiting for a response, he vanished from the tower in an instant. Who are you? The young emperor's voice trembled as a figure materialized in front of him. He was preparing to use the Shikao taser to destroy his enemies when Rao appeared out of nowhere. A puppet emperor, just a child. No wonder the empire ended up like this. Rao's tone was calm but sharp. I am not a child. I am the emperor of the empire. The boy's pride flared, his voice rising. The Shikao taser's eyes glowed red. Its mouth began gathering energy, forming a powerful beam. Buzz. The light cannon fired. A searing beam of energy streaked across the battlefield, obliterating everything in its path. A distant skyscraper was pierced through and collapsed in seconds. The power was overwhelming. Even Akam and her team were stunned by the sheer destructive force. He's dead, right? The Emperor's voice was shaky, his forehead dripping with sweat. Killing someone for the first time left him rattled, but he reassured himself that it was for the Empire. Ah, what a pity. I'm not dead. The calm voice echoed again, freezing the Emperor in place. His eyes widened as Rao reappeared unscathed. How? How is this possible? The Emperor screamed in disbelief. Since you attacked me, it's only fair I kill you now. Rao didn't care about the boy's age or his pitiful situation as a puppet. Raising his hand, he clenched his fist. Below, the minister sneered at the sight. Ha! You think you can damage the Shikao taser? Its defenses are impenetrable. No imperial arm can break it. His confidence in the ultimate imperial arm was absolute. But that confidence shattered in the next moment. The air around Rao seemed to freeze. Suddenly, he unleashed his punch. Boom! The air cracked with a deafening roar. A massive shockwave radiated from Rao's fist, ripping through the atmosphere. Dust clouds billowed. Trees and buildings were torn apart. The force shattered rooftops and created a terrifying vacuum that sucked in everything nearby. High in the sky, a colossal tornado formed, swallowing even the clouds. Soldiers screamed as they were swept into the air, disappearing into the vortex. Yumeko and the others clung to nearby structures to avoid being blown away. When the chaos finally settled, Mine brushed her disheveled hair aside, her expression stunned. Sunlight poured through a crack in the sky, drawing everyone's gaze upward. What the hell is that? Mine swallowed hard, trembling as she stared at the rift in the heavens. A massive fissure split the sky, stretching into the horizon, its edges glowing with searing light. Is that human power? The Jaggers leader, Wave, murmured in disbelief, his will to fight utterly crushed. The atmosphere itself had been split in two. With a single punch. Chapter 144, Revolutionary Army's surprise one punch split the atmosphere in two. Will had no idea what kind of person could achieve such a feat. Even General Bdo, revered for his immense strength, had never exhibited such overwhelming power that it left others utterly hopeless. Boom. The Shikao taser, now missing half of its body, collapsed to the ground. The earth shook violently as the massive machine fell. TCH, the so-called ultimate imperial arm. This is all it amounts to? Rao stood atop the wreckage of the Shikao taser, his gaze full of disdain. He hadn't even used any special abilities. Just a single punch. Yet, the so-called ultimate imperial arm couldn't withstand it. One strike, and it was reduced to scrap metal. The young emperor, piloting the mech, was obliterated, leaving not even a trace. Rao silently agreed with Velzard and Velgrin's earlier assessment. This world, aside from its swimmen, lacked anything truly interesting. Rao's gaze shifted as he noticed something intriguing. Die. Despite the battlefield being gripped by shock at the devastating power Rao had just displayed, one figure stood out. Twisted and maniacal. The deranged Sura Ubiquitous snarled with unrelenting bloodlust as she charged toward Chelsea and the others. Her bio-beast imperial arm, Hecatonchires, transformed into a monstrous form, lunging straight at Shiel. In the name of justice, I sentence you evildoers to death. Sura's voice rang out, fervent and filled with self-righteous conviction. She truly believed herself to be the embodiment of justice. For Rao, this scene was almost amusing. He remembered that both Shiel and Chelsea had died at Sura's hands in another timeline. One devoured by her bio-beast, the other beheaded by her blade. It was as though the lines of fate were forcing history to repeat itself. Shiel, look out. Mine's voice rang out in warning, her expression frantic. Her pumpkin cannon was already primed, but the reaction time was too short. Shiel barely managed to raise her imperial arm, Extase, to defend herself. Meanwhile, Chelsea, weaponless and panicked, could only stare in terror as Sura's blade came hurtling toward her. Death seemed inevitable. Whoosh! Suddenly, A chilling current surged across the battlefield. Huh? Chelsea blinked, confused. So, who had been mere steps away from her, froze in place. Her entire body was encased in crystalline ice, as was her monstrous bio-beast, Hecatonkires. Crack. Crack. A split second later, cracks spread across the icy surfaces. With a loud shatter, both Saru and her bio-beast crumbled into countless frozen shards, scattering across the ground. They were dead. Everyone turned their gaze to Asdeath, assuming she had been the one to act. However, the general stood motionless, showing no signs of involvement. No, it was Rayao. He had casually intervened. With the battle still raging and a certain celebration waiting after the dust settled, he wasn't about to let his trade partners die. Both Sheil and Chelsea seemed to understand who had saved them. But Rayao offered no explanation. Instead, he turned his attention to the minister, who was still trapped within a circle of flames. In a single gesture, the fire dissipated. Don't come any closer. The minister stumbled backward, his face pale with terror. He was so frightened that he wet himself, urine pooling at his feet. Rayao wrinkled his nose in disgust. What an utterly pathetic sight. A vortex of green wind swirled around the minister, lifting his corpulent body into the air. No. No. Don't let go. The minister screamed in terror, flailing his stubby legs. Soldiers below looked up at the commotion, only to see their leader dangling helplessly in the sky. Trash belongs in the dump. Rayao's voice was calm but merciless. The wind holding the minister aloft vanished. Ah! The minister's screams echoed as he plummeted toward the ground. The wind roared past him, the earth rushing up to meet him at terrifying speed. His heart pounded wildly, sheer terror consuming him. Thud. The sound of his impact was sickeningly loud. The minister's body crumpled upon hitting the ground, breaking apart like a grotesque doll. Blood and gore splattered in all directions. Around him, soldiers froze in place, staring in shock and disbelief. The minister, one of the Empire's highest-ranking figures, was dead. Their morale shattered. Rayao took to the sky, unfurling massive dragon wings that cast an imposing shadow over the city. His cold gaze swept across the imperial capital as though surveying his domain. In truth, that was exactly how he saw it. He was ready to play emperor for a while. The emperor and minister are dead. From now on, I am the new emperor of this empire. Those who defy me will be executed without mercy. The declaration echoed across the capital, reaching every corner. The air seemed to freeze. Every soldier halted their battles, their weapons lowering as shock overwhelmed them. The emperor and the minister. Both gone. Why continue fighting? Fearful for their lives and stripped of their fighting spirit, many soldiers dropped their weapons, falling to their knees in surrender. Is it over? Leone crushed Bol's head with a single claw, emerging victorious in her battle. But the sudden death of the Empire's leadership left her stunned. Surrender. Akam pointed her blade at Wave, standing near his imperial arm, Grand Chariot. Surrender, huh? Wave gave a bitter smile beneath his helmet. That might not suit me. With those words, he plunged his hand into his chest, piercing his heart. Akam watched silently as his lifeless body crumpled to the ground. Elsewhere, Najunda stood motionless, gazing into the sunlight breaking through the clouds. A storm of emotions raged within her. The oppressive darkness of the Empire's rule had finally been brought to an end. For others, like Mai and her companions, the relief was palpable. The brutality of taking lives had weighed heavily on them, and the end of the battle brought an overwhelming sense of release. Rayao descended from the sky, his wings folding as he landed gracefully. Suai and Kirano joined him from their high vantage point on the tower, while the members of Night Raid and Mai's group gathered around him. Surveying the group, Rayao noted that this was the first time some of them had experienced such bloodshed. The pale faces and uneasy expressions spoke volumes. I'll be purging the palace from top to bottom, he said. You can all go and rest. Mai nodded, her voice soft. Thank you. We'll do that. One by one, they filed away, their shoulders heavy with exhaustion and the weight of their actions. Rayao then turned to Najunda and the remaining members of Night Raid. A mischievous grin spread across his face. Now then, he said. Why don't we prepare a little surprise for the revolutionaries and their allies? Outside the capital in a dense forest, two figures lurked in the shadows. Bullet, did you hear that? Lubbock's tone was laced with unease. He had heard something strange. An ominous voice seemingly carried on the wind from the direction of the capital. Yeah. Bullet's expression was grim. Whatever was happening in the city, it wasn't normal. What should we do now? Lubbock's gaze shifted nervously toward the faint outline of the Imperial city. Bullet sighed heavily. For now, we wait for the Revolutionary Army to arrive. Neither had any better options. The Revolutionary Army, the sheer size of their forces was staggering. A million-strong army marched toward the capital, their movements shaking the earth. But as they advanced, something felt wrong. There was no resistance. No soldiers. No traps. No signs of defense. What's going on here? The Revolutionary Army's leader, a middle-aged man with a stern countenance, signaled his forces to halt outside the eerily silent city. Moments later, two familiar figures were brought before him. Lubbock and Bullet. "Explain yourselves," the leader demanded, his sharp eyes scanning the two night raid members. Bullet spoke up first. "The capital is empty. We scouted ahead. There are no soldiers, no citizens. Nothing. It's unnervingly quiet." The leader frowned, exchanging glances with his high-ranking officers. "What about the rest of night raid? Why are you two the only ones here?" Lubbock hesitated, unsure of how to answer. Admitting that night raid had severed ties with the revolutionary seemed unwise. Bullet stepped in. Najunda and the others stayed inside the capital. "They're monitoring the situation closely." It was a half-truth, but it sufficed. The revolutionary leader nodded slowly, though skepticism lingered in his eyes. "Very well. What exactly did you observe inside the capital?" Bullet and Lubbock described what they had seen: the deserted streets, the eerie silence, and the absence of any signs of life. "No soldiers at all?" The gathered officers and allied tribal leaders exchanged uneasy glances. This wasn't the response they had anticipated. "What should we do?" Confusion spread among the ranks. After a moment of deliberation, the leader issued a command. "We'll take a small contingent and scout the capital ourselves. The rest will remain here." Leading a group of elite soldiers, the revolutionary leader cautiously entered the capital through its main gate. The silence was oppressive. Every step echoed against the empty streets. As they reached the palace, their eyes widened in shock. Corpses littered the ground, and the area was strewn with rubble. Lubbock's voice trembled. There was a battle here." Bullet nodded grimly. But then, his attention shifted to the palace entrance, where a lone figure stood waiting. "Najunda? What are you doing here?" Lubbock's shock was evident. He turned to Bullet for answers, but the older man simply shook his head, just as confused. After all, his earlier claim about Najunda and the others had been nothing more than an excuse. Now, standing before them, Najunda's expression was unreadable. Chapter 145, Overthrowing the Empire. Revolutionary Army's leader disbelief. Najunda stood calmly at the palace gates as the Revolutionary Army leader glared at her. "What's going on here, Najunda?" he demanded, his tone sharp. The entire situation seemed abnormal, and he was growing increasingly suspicious. Otherwise, how could the leader of Night Raid appear so openly in front of the palace? This unsettling development made him hesitant. Najunda's one eye swept over the figures beside him, their appearances marking them as leaders of the foreign tribes allied with the Revolutionary Army. She showed no visible reaction, but her words were measured. "The Emperor is waiting for you inside the palace," she said calmly. "The Emperor?" Gasps erupted among the Revolutionary Army's high-ranking members. The leader's expression darkened instantly. "Najunda, have you betrayed the Revolutionary Army and sided with the Empire?" he bellowed, his voice filled with rage. This was the only explanation that made sense. It had to be a trap. A banquet of betrayal. Lubbock, stunned, shook his head vehemently. "This is impossible. Najunda would never betray us." Bullet added his voice, his brows furrowed. "Najunda, what's really going on here?" "We haven't betrayed anyone," Najunda replied, her tone steady. "The Empire's rule has simply came to an end." Leaving no room for further explanation, she turned and began walking into the palace. "Follow me, and you'll understand." Her cryptic words left the Revolutionary Army leaders unsettled. What if it really was a trap? Lubbock clenched his fists. "I don't believe Najunda would betray us. I'm going in." "Ah. Fine." Bullet sighed, trailing after him. The Revolutionary Army leader gritted his teeth, his anger barely contained. "Follow her. Let's see what this is all about." Inside the palace their footsteps echoed through the grand halls as they cautiously entered the throne room. At first, the sight of soldiers set off alarms in their minds. But something was off. There weren't many soldiers. Just a scattering of guards. And they weren't typical Imperial troops. These were members of Asdith's personal army, standing in disciplined silence. Their eyes shifted forward to the throne. But it wasn't the young emperor sitting there. Nor was it the scheming minister. Instead, they saw a man, surrounded by a group of women, including members of Night Raid. "Rayao." Bullet blurted out the name in shock. Rayao's gaze flicked to him, a faint smile on his lips. "You revolutionaries are late," he said casually. "The Empire is already mine." His blunt declaration sent a ripple of outrage through the group. One of the Revolutionary Army's higher-ups stepped forward, his face twisted in anger. "The Empire is yours? Who the hell do you think you are?" he sneered. "We're the Revolutionary Army." We have 1,000,000 troops at the gates. Hand over the throne, or... Shing. Before he could finish, a flash of silver lit the room. Blood sprayed into the air, splattering everyone nearby. Thud. Something heavy hit the floor. They looked down to see the decapitated head of the man who had just spoken. Shock silenced the room as they turned to the source of the strike. Poised with calm precision was Sako Bujujima, her blade gleaming as she sheathed it with a soft click. Too noisy, she said coolly. How? When? Lubbock's eyes widened, his voice trembling. He hadn't even seen her draw her sword, let alone move. This brutal act silenced any further objections from the Revolutionary Army leaders. The smell of blood lingered in the air as they stared at the headless body on the floor. The Revolutionary Army leader clenched his fists, his voice low and bitter. What's the meaning of this, Rao? Killing one of my people outright? Rao chuckled, his tone dripping with mockery. You're questioning me? Take a good look around. You saw the corpses and rubble outside, didn't you? I killed the emperor. I killed the minister. I crushed the empire with my own hands. Naturally, it's mine now. His smile faded, replaced by a cold glare. And what of your subordinate? He dared covet my throne. His death was inevitable. Rao Zora surged, filling the room with suffocating pressure. I'll kill anyone I wish to. Do you have a problem with that? Boom. The oppressive weight of his power forced everyone present to their knees, unable to withstand the force. The Revolutionary Army leader gritted his teeth, his mind racing. He had long dreamed of sitting on the imperial throne, believing it was his destiny. Sir, he began, trying to mask his frustration with diplomacy. The Revolutionary Army exists to overthrow tyranny and bring peace to the people of this empire. But with our 1,000,000-strong army, we could create a better future for this land. Nagenda's gaze sharpened slightly. The Revolutionary Army leader's veiled threat carried an unmistakable tone of coercion. He was trying to leverage his so-called 1,000,000-strong army to pressure them into compliance. TSK, TSK. Rao smirked, easily deciphering the leader's intentions. Instead of pointing it out, he threw out a startling remark. Why don't you go check if your 1,000,000-strong army is still there? What did you just say? The leader's face froze. Wasn't the army right outside the city? Suddenly, a cold realization hit him. The eerily quiet imperial palace had already felt off. No guards, no defensive lines. His instincts screamed at him. Retreat, now. His roar cut through the silence, and the Revolutionary Army leaders bolted from the throne room. Their footsteps echoed as they rushed toward the city gates. Back in the throne room, Lubbock and Bullet remained, confused and shaken. Najenda, what's going on? Lubbock asked, his voice filled with unease. You said we wouldn't. Before he could finish, Mine cut him off with a sharp snort. Did we ever say we were on the Revolutionary Army's side? She crossed her arms, her glare icy. We just refused to support your plan to work with the foreign tribes. Instead, we chose a better way to topple the empire. Lubbock had no response. The proof was all around him. The empire had indeed fallen. Bullet scratched the back of his head, sighing. So, what happens now? The empire's done for, so what are we supposed to do? Najenda looked at them both, her expression firm. Lubbock, Bullet. It's up to you. What will you choose? A long silence followed. Bullet broke it with a wry chuckle. Well, since the empire's tyranny is over, our job's done. I'll probably head off and live a quiet life as a normal person. Lubbock, however, locked eyes with Najenda. Najenda. Can I still stay by your side? Before Najenda could reply, Rao stepped in, grabbing her by the arm and examining her. With a flick of his finger, her mechanical arm cracked and fell to pieces. Wait, what are you? Before Najenda could react, Rao removed her eye patch, revealing the hollow socket beneath. A glowing magical circle appeared in his palm, radiating light. Everyone watched in stunned silence as energy swirled around Najenda. Her body began to change. Her missing arm regrew, her empty eye socket filled, and even her short hair lengthened until it cascaded down her back. Her skin became smoother, her features more refined. When the glow faded, Najenda stood there, transformed. She flexed her new fingers and blinked her newly restored eye in awe. This is me? Lubbock was stunned. It was as if the Najenda he had once admired had returned, even more radiant than before. Rao's smile widened. As one of my queens in this world, this is only fitting. Queen? Lubbock's eyes widened in shock. He turned to Najenda, his voice trembling. What? What does he mean? Najenda's voice was steady, her gaze calm. This was part of the trade. To overthrow the empire, we agreed to submit to him. That's... No. Lubbock's fists clenched, his voice shaking. This can't be right. But Najenda cut him off. This was our choice, and will take responsibility for it. There's no need for you to worry." Lubbock fell silent, his gaze searching hers for any sign of doubt. Finally, he let out a bitter laugh, his shoulders slumping. "Then, I wish you all the best." Leaving his imperial arm behind, he walked out of the throne room without looking back. Bullet sighed deeply. Unlike Lubbock, he wasn't as emotionally attached. "I just hope you can make this empire a better place," he said sincerely. After placing his imperial arm on the ground, he turned and left as well. Mine's face turned crimson as she stammered, pointing at Rayao. What did you mean by queens?" Rayao's grin turned mischievous. "Exactly what you think it means. Our trade isn't over yet, mine." Her blush deepened, and she shrank back slightly, muttering, "I'd almost forgotten about that part." Leon's grin widened. "So, what about the Revolutionary Army and those foreign tribes? Just let them do whatever they want?" "Let them?" Rayao chuckled darkly. "Of course not. This is my empire now." His smile turned predatory. "But don't worry. I'm sure Asdith has already taken care of them." He stepped forward, his tone turning lighter. "Now then, how about we settle the rest of our trade? I believe I owe some of you a more personal reward." Chapter 146, Livestream 6 vs 1. The Revolutionary Army leader ran desperately with his followers, his thoughts a chaotic whirl of shock and ambition. Night Raid, along with that mysterious man, had seized the Imperial Palace ahead of them. But it didn't matter. They had their million-strong army, and he was confident that it would be more than enough to reclaim the capital and the palace. His eyes burned with fervor. As long as they reached the army, as long as he stood before them, he would reclaim the throne and crown himself as the new emperor of the empire. Huh. The group came to an abrupt halt as they exited the city. In front of them, a formation of soldiers clad in elite armor blocked their path. These were not their soldiers. Behind the formation loomed massive ice mountains, their transparent surfaces revealing frozen soldiers trapped within, their faces locked in expressions of terror. Hiss. The eerie, bone-chilling cold made their skin crawl, and goosebumps rose along their arms. Revolutionary Army, foreign tribes. Do you have any true warriors among you? A cold, commanding voice echoed across the battlefield. Standing before the army was Asdith, clad in her military uniform, her sharp sword gleaming as she pointed it toward the Revolutionary Army leaders and foreign tribal chiefs. Her lips curved into a cruel smile. "I'm giving you an opportunity. A chance to die with honor." Asdith. The Revolutionary Army leader instinctively swallowed hard, fear gripping his chest. Asdith's infamy was unmatched, her name alone struck terror into hearts across the land. But he couldn't comprehend why she was here. Why? Why are you here? The capital had been captured. The emperor, the ministers, the nobles. Everyone had reportedly been killed. How was Asdith, the empire's most feared general, still alive? And why was she standing in their way? The answer was simple: Asdith had chosen to be here. When Rayao offered her the chance to massacre enemies to her heart's content, she eagerly accepted. To her, the million-strong army and their leaders were nothing more than playthings to break. Rayao had only one request: anyone who refused to submit must be killed. Under Asdith's ruthless command, the once million-strong army had already been reduced to less than 400,000. The weak are meant to die. Asdith saw no value in their lives, and Rayao had no objections to her methods. Asdith sneered, her sword gleaming as she raised it toward them. "You have no right to choose your fate. The only option left to you is battle." Her eyes burned with maniacal glee as her grin widened. "The victors will live. The defeated will perish. Come, let us slaughter one another." While Asdith reveled in the thrill of battle, others found themselves lost in thought. Inside the grand bathing pool of the now cleansed palace, several women sat submerged in the warm water, their expressions dazed. For Mai Sakurajima and the others, the day's events had been a harrowing ordeal. Blood, dismembered bodies, and the countless lives they had taken replayed endlessly in their minds. The weight of their actions left them feeling numb, even nauseous, as they tried to process it all. The bath was eerily silent. The only ones who seemed unaffected were Rei, Kajika, Ayam, and Sako Bujujima. Sitting beside Sako, Mai couldn't help but voice the question gnawing at her. You don't feel anything about killing, do you?" The other women, including Megumi Kato and Sanoko Machida, turned their attention to Sako. Calmly, Sako opened her eyes, her serene gaze meeting Mai's. Through the rising steam, Mai noticed how Sako's form seemed unshakable, her presence steady as ever. Sako turned to face Mai fully, her expression unreadable. "Are you asking me what it feels like to take a life?" Mai hesitated, then nodded. Sako's ruthless efficiency during the battle had left an impression on all of them. She had killed without hesitation, without any sign of remorse. Sako regarded her quietly before speaking, her tone steady and unwavering. "You're confused, aren't you? All of you are." Mai lowered her head, her hands trembling in the water. "Yes." She stared at her palms, still glistening with droplets. Though clean, she couldn't shake the sensation of blood staining them, an indelible mark on her memory. Suko sighed softly. She placed a firm yet gentle hand on Mai's shoulder, her words measured. "I won't lie to you. I can't give you peace or erase the weight of what you've done." Her gaze swept over the others. "Killing is never easy, and it never should be." She paused, letting her words sink in before continuing. "But if you want to find peace, you must first find your purpose. Choose a path you can accept, a reason that will give meaning to your actions." Suko turned her gaze back to Mai, her tone soft but resolute. "For me, my purpose is clear. I am Rao's blade. My duty is to cut down anyone who stands in his way." So her blade was swift and deadly. Even in the Imperial Palace's Grand Hall, Suko Bujujima had executed a revolutionary army with a single, decisive strike for speaking out of turn. Next to Yumiko, Ayam nodded. "That's right, I feel the same." She exchanged a glance with Kajika. "Our lives were saved by Rao-sama. We're willing to give everything for him." Rei Miyamoto, sitting between Megamikado and Saya Takagi, nodded in agreement. But her situation differed slightly. "In my world, before all this, I had already killed someone. Koichi Shido." Saya Takagi immediately blurted the name, her expression twisting with anger at the memory. "Koichi Shido." Yuriko Takagi frowned, her sharp gaze showing recognition. "That was your teacher, wasn't it? It sounds like something serious happened." "Yes." Saya Takagi's face darkened as she recounted everything that had happened that day. A teacher like that truly deserved to die. Yuriko's eyes were fierce. If she'd been there, she wouldn't have hesitated to deal with such a man herself. And Rei Miyamoto had done exactly that. "To be honest, after killing Shido, I was terrified. I was afraid that I had become a murderer," Rei admitted. "But you killed someone who deserved it," Yumiko interjected. She didn't see anything wrong with what Rei had done. People like Shido deserve to die. Rei smiled gently. "You're right. Eventually, I came to understand that I had done the right thing by killing him. Once I realized that, the fear disappeared." Seeing that the conversation was taking a positive turn, Rei turned her smile toward the others. "Don't you think our current situation is quite similar?" The group fell silent. Megamikado was the first to break it, her tone contemplative. "The people we killed were accomplices to the Empire's corruption. They helped maintain its oppressive rule." Mai Sakurajima seemed to have an epiphany. "Are you saying they deserved to die too?" Rei shook her head. "I don't know for certain. What I do know is that, from our perspective, and Rao's perspective, they were obstacles, enemies." Her voice became firmer. "We killed our enemies, and they would have killed us if given the chance. In that sense, life and death were equal on the battlefield." Sui scoffed, her expression full of disdain. "If they're Rao's enemies, and dirty humans on top of that, then they deserve to die." Shizu nodded. "At the very least, the Empire's future will change because of this." The conversation seemed to ease the tension within the group. Saya Takagi sighed, running a hand through her hair in frustration. "Seriously, all this reflection. It's just about that guy, isn't it?" The group shared a knowing, awkward silence. After all, they were all Rao's women. This mutual understanding made the atmosphere a little uncomfortable. Saya broke the silence by turning to Suko. "Suko, you came in late. Did you finish dealing with the Revolutionary Army? What's that guy doing now? And what about Akam and the others?" Suko's expression shifted slightly, a faint smile appearing on her lips. "Rao? Well." She paused for a moment, then suggested. "Why don't we just ask him directly?" Main chat group, Suko Bujujima, Rao, Saya wants to know what you're doing right now. Rao, oh, just the usual. You know, making love and stuff. Stella. Ding. Rao has started a live stream. The group instinctively clicked on the notification. The moment they entered the live stream, they were greeted by an overwhelming sight. Frieren, wow. That's a lot. Suko Bujujima, well, there were 6 trades, after all. Stella. It was happening again. Stella, already accustomed to these situations, didn't even bother to react anymore. The scene felt strangely routine by this point. I hate this. Her actions, however, told a different story. Stella whispered softly. Why do I keep doing this? She, too, gave in to curiosity, though her face burned with embarrassment. After all, once it started, there was no going back. Yukino Shida, however, was utterly unprepared. The moment she clicked into the live stream, she exited with lightning speed. Her entire body jolted upright from her bed. What was that? Her face burned with embarrassment as she clutched her head in disbelief. How can something so inappropriate be live-streamed? Her mind, already unsettled by the earlier bloodshed, was now overwhelmed by the chaotic images seared into her memory. She had heard rumors in the chat group about Rao's outlandish behavior. But experiencing it firsthand was a completely different story. The most shell-shocked, however, were Megamikado's sister, Hiramikado, and a trembling Ariri. Hirami, still in disbelief, muttered. Can this even be allowed? Her thoughts spiraled. Would Rao's actions one day cause him to self-destruct? Meanwhile, Ariri lay in Rao's bed, her eyes hollow and voice trembling. Why? Rao, why are you like this? Her mind, already frayed by the gruesome battlefield, was now numb. Her precious white moonlight had been tainted once again. Chapter 147, 6 verses 1. Kurom joined. 7 verses 1. He. Saya Takagi's mouth moved wordlessly, her face rapidly flushing red as her emotions surged. Her wide-eyed gaze darted towards Shikobujujima, only to catch the slight smirk tugging at the latter's lips. At that moment, she understood everything. Siko, you knew what he was doing? Siko shrugged casually. Since it's a trade, naturally, it comes with payment. Saya froze, rendered utterly speechless. Her gaze flicked instinctively to the others. Everyone awkwardly avoided eye contact, their expressions shifting uncomfortably. Even her own mother averted her gaze in embarrassment. The bathhouse fell into a deep, awkward silence. No one spoke. No one even tried to continue the philosophical discussions they had been having earlier. Kurano Shinoji, who had been silently observing these youngsters from the beginning, remained quiet. Of course, there were two individuals among them who only looked young. Splash. Suddenly, Kurom, who had been sitting quietly in the corner, stood up from the bath and stepped out without a word. Her back was straight as she walked away, leaving everyone else to watch her departing figure in silence. No one said a thing. What's wrong with her? Kajika reflexively asked. But no one had an answer. No one in the group was particularly close to Kurom, they had barely exchanged any words with her before. Not even 2 minutes later. Wait. Kurom? Kajika's eyes widened in shock, and she exclaimed aloud. How did she show up on the live stream? The others turned their attention to the screen, where Kurom's figure had suddenly appeared in Rao's live stream. Meanwhile, within the stream, ugh, I can't take it anymore. Mine whimpered, her voice trembling as she slumped forward. The connection, naturally, broke off. TCH, mine, you're so fragile. Let me handle it. Leon declared, preparing to step up, only for Akam to intervene. Hey, Akam, you've already gone once. That's not fair. Leon protested indignantly. But Akam, her expression resolute, replied solemnly. My trade isn't complete yet. Huh? Leon raised an eyebrow, her lips curving into a teasing smirk. Are you sure you're not just getting addicted? Akam blushed deeply, her expression turning awkward as she silently sat down, avoiding Leon's gaze. Seeing this, Leon could only groan in frustration and wait her turn. As the women squabbled and blushed, Rao, the center of their attention, simply sat back and watched with an amused expression. No matter how heated their arguments became, he wasn't concerned. After all, everyone was his, and he wasn't about to lose anything in the process. Having handed the Revolutionary Army and the foreign tribes invaders over to his teeth, Rao had shifted his focus entirely to collecting the payments owed by the night trade. Najenda, Shiel, and mine had been given priority. Najenda, ever composed, sat calmly to the side, observing the others without a hint of embarrassment. Meanwhile, Shiel and mine clung to each other, their faces flushed as they pretended to sleep. In their unspoken language, their body language conveyed a single, shared sentiment: we're done for the day. Seeing Leon looking disappointed, Chelsea hesitated for a moment. Shrinking back slightly, she timidly raised her hand and asked nervously, Leon? Do you want to go again? Leon turned toward Chelsea, rubbing her chin thoughtfully before grinning. Not a bad idea, I guess. The main reason was that Leon noticed how much Shiel, mine, and Najenda seemed to be enjoying themselves. Otherwise, even Akam wouldn't have been so eager to go again. Chelsea's eyes lit up. In that case, I'll let you take my place for the payment. Huh? Leon was taken aback. That phrasing sounded odd, but upon closer thought, wasn't this just Chelsea asking her to repay the debt on her behalf? Leon glanced at Rao, who was busy focusing on Akam. Is that allowed? Without a word, Rao casually flicked a finger. Wah! Chelsea was immediately lifted by an invisible wind and sent flying into his arms. He smirked. Thinking of having someone else pay your dues? Too bad. This trade belongs to you, and you alone can pay for it. Before Chelsea could respond, Rayao placed her on the bed, beside Akam, and kissed her firmly. In mere seconds, Chelsea's surprise melted into enthusiasm as she responded willingly. Leon was dumbfounded, watching the scene unfold. She seriously suspected that Chelsea had planned this. Planned this. Entirely. Damn it. Leon grumbled internally. She had been eager and ready, yet once again, someone had cut in line. However, things were about to get even more perplexing. Rayao suddenly paused, lifting his head from Chelsea's flushed face. There were footsteps in the hallway. That was strange, the corridor had been sealed with ice to prevent any interruptions. This movement. Is it her? Recognizing the approaching presence, Rayao dissolved the ice barrier with a flick of his mind. Click. The door swung open. The abrupt noise startled everyone present. Given the activities taking place, all eyes instinctively darted to the doorway. It was Kuram. Oh, it's just Kuram. The room let out a collective sigh of relief. But confusion quickly followed. Wait. Kuram? Why is she here? Akam tensed immediately, her body going rigid. Rayao, however, motioned for her to continue. To Akam's shock, Kuram walked forward, completely unfazed. She ignored her sister's flushed expression and focused her gaze directly on Rayao. I want to make a trade, she said flatly. Akam tilted her head, looking utterly perplexed. The others exchanged similarly puzzled looks. Kuram wasn't one for idle talk. Ding. Kuram has initiated a trade request. Trade request, give her sister the potential to grow stronger. Ding. Please select the trade terms. Rayao raised an eyebrow at the unusual request. From his perspective, this trade was entirely unnecessary. Akam, mine, and the others were already committed to him as imperial consorts. Ensuring their strength was in his best interest for managing the empire. You're offering a trade to make Akam stronger? He asked, curiosity lacing his tone. Kuram nodded firmly. Yes, to repay her for saving my life. Akam's expression softened, her blush mingling with genuine gratitude. Even so, Rayao decided to clarify. There's no need for this trade. Akam, like mine and the others, is my consort. For the sake of my empire, I'll ensure they all become stronger without requiring your sacrifice. Kuram hesitated, clearly at a loss. Her attempt at repaying her sister's kindness now felt redundant. Seeing her sister's struggle, Akam reached out and pulled Kuram onto the bed. Looking her in the eye, Akam said earnestly, in that case, Kuram, join me in building a better future for the empire. It was a heartwarming moment. Or at least, it should have been. However, Rayao's unrelenting presence, combined with Akam gripping Kuram's shoulders tightly, gave the scene a peculiar undertone. Kuram blinked for a few seconds, her face unreadable. Then, she nodded. All right. Ding. Kuram has initiated a trade request. Trade request, become one of Rayao's consorts. Ding. Please select the trade terms. Rayao chuckled, his grin widening. If that's your decision, who am I to refuse? He leaned back, clearly pleased. After all, he was a staunch believer in a purely carnivorous approach. Chapter 148, Aftermath and Stats of Night Trade. A new trade appeared in the chat group. Ding. Trade initiated, target, Kuram, trade content, become Rayao's consort. Trade terms, March of the Dead, Yatsufusa, and one-time bodily usage rights. Duration, 3 hours. The appearance of this trade didn't shock the group. There was a brief flicker of surprise, but that was all. Afterward, the response was mostly indifferent. It was simply seen as, just another one. Nothing new. Yes, just another addition to the growing list. Rayao's collection of women had grown so large that most group members felt a strong sense of déjà vu. One more doesn't make a difference, they thought. With 15 hours left of his stay in that world, the group could only speculate on how long Rayao's 1v7 battle would last. Morning, Rayao-kun, are you awake? Sayuri gently knocked on the guest room door, speaking softly. She was worried about seeing a chaotic scene, so she didn't dare enter directly. Earlier, she had checked Ariri's room and noticed her daughter wasn't there. Fearing she might see something inappropriate if she opened the door, she only called Rayao's name. But despite calling for a long time, there was no response or even the faintest sounds of someone stirring. Growing more puzzled, she tried calling Ariri's name instead. Ariri, it's time to wake up, or you'll be late. Yet, strangely, there was still no reply. What's going on? Worried, Sayuri pressed her lips together. She hesitated but finally placed her hand on the doorknob and gently pushed it down. She carefully opened the door just a crack and peeked in, preparing herself mentally for whatever she might see. But to her surprise, the scene wasn't what she had imagined. No white, tangled mess. No clothes strewn everywhere. And most importantly, no sign of Rao. Peering through the gap, she could only see Sayuri curled up in the blanket, her little head peeking out. Sayuri found it odd. She decided to open the door fully and step inside for a closer look. The air was calm. No strange smells, no scattered clothing, no sign of Rao anywhere. Where did Rao go? Perplexed, Sayuri approached the bed and lightly pinched Sayuri's soft cheek. Sayuri, wake up. Sayuri slowly opened her sleepy eyes. Seeing her mother, she rubbed her drowsy eyes and mumbled. Mom, what is it? Her tone was casual, as though everything was normal. Sayuri feigned ignorance. Why are you in Rao-kun's room? And where is he? Rao. Hearing that name instantly jolted Sayuri awake, the memories of last night rushing back. She remembered sneaking into Rao's room after midnight to watch the live stream. Until she fell asleep. Now, it seemed like she'd been caught red-handed. Right. The live stream? Sayuri instinctively glanced at the chat group. Her sudden shout startled Sayuri. Sayuri, what's wrong? And nothing. Realizing her reaction was too loud, Sayuri quickly clamped her mouth shut, though her face flushed crimson. It wasn't because of the current situation. It was because the live stream was still going. This time, it featured Mine and Leon. The fact that the live stream hadn't stopped yet was both astonishing and terrifying. Sayuri's expression shifted between shock, embarrassment, and disbelief, making Sayuri even more concerned. Sayuri, are you feeling unwell somewhere? And no, that's not it. Sayuri scratched her head nervously, laughing awkwardly. I heard noises last night and saw Rao-kun leaving, so I came here to tidy up his room. But then I got sleepy and dozed off. She came up with the excuse on the spot. While it was full of holes, it was the best she could manage. She couldn't exactly admit she'd snuck into Rao's bed to watch his live stream. Just imagining the scene was mortifying. Sayuri's gaze subtly twitched. Her daughter was clearly lying. After all, she had witnessed Sayuri sneaking into Rao's room during the night. However, Sayuri chose not to expose her. Feigning realization, she gently said. I see. Well then, Sayuri, hurry and wash up. Breakfast is ready. Why yeah. Sayuri quickly nodded, her face still flushed as she scrambled to leave the room. Seeing her mother not dwelling on the topic, Sayuri felt relieved and nodded repeatedly, eager to move past the awkward moment. After a rushed morning routine, she joined Sayuri at the dining table for breakfast. Taking a sip of water to ease her earlier embarrassment, Sayuri, almost instinctively, opened the live stream again. Somehow, she had developed a small addiction to it, like a guilty pleasure. But the moment it loaded, the scene on screen was far too overwhelming. PFFT. She spat the water out instantly. Cough, cough, cough. Sayuri's violent coughing fit caught Sayuri's attention. Sayuri. Sayuri hurriedly handed her a napkin and gently patted her back to help her recover. Cough. I'm fine, Mom, Sayuri managed to say with a pitiful expression. I just drank too fast and choked a little. You. Why are you so rushed even when drinking water? Sayuri gently tapped her daughter's forehead in mock scolding. It won't happen again. Sayuri promised with shifty eyes, clearly avoiding her mother's gaze. She sneaked another glance at the live stream and blushed furiously. The scene was far too intense. She quickly lowered her head, focusing on her breakfast instead, unwilling to risk another shock. Sobu High School Yukino Shita walked out of the teacher's office with an icy expression. She couldn't believe she'd actually done such a thing. Early in the morning, Rao had sent a message in the group chat, asking her to request leave for him, Mai, Megumi, and Yumiko. And what was he doing at the time? Still indulging in those unspeakable acts. Yukino was at a loss about what she was even doing. First, she watched live streams of war and slaughter. Then, streams of complete chaos. And now, she was helping the culprit behind it all by requesting leave on his behalf. Sigh. She exhaled deeply, trying to shake off her conflicted thoughts as she returned to her classroom. Meanwhile, Shizuka Hiratsuka sat in the office, baffled. What's going on here? Rao and Megumi-san both requesting leave, relayed by Yukino? Since when were they connected? A night of exhaustion and conquest. 18 hours of effort weren't in vain. Rao had truly triumphed over the entire night raid organization. Looking at the exhausted but radiant faces around him, he couldn't help but feel satisfied. Name, Akam, Level 10, Abilities, Dragon Force, Wind Spirit, Rao's Blessing, Inherent Device, Dark Wings, Possession, One Cut Killer, Morass Aim. Name, Kuram, Level 8, Abilities, Dragon Force, Wind Spirit, Rao's Blessing, Inherent Device, Necromancer, Possession, March of the Dead, Yatsufusa. As promised, Both sisters received his blessing, significantly enhancing their strength. Name, Leon, Level 8, Abilities, Dragon Force, Earth Spirit, Rael's Blessing, Inherent Device, Beastmaster, Possession, the King of Beasts Transformation, Lionel. Name, Mine, Level 5, Abilities, Dragon Force, Wind Spirit, Rael's Blessing, Inherent Device, Deadeye, Possession, Roman Artillery, Pumpkin. Leon and Mine also saw considerable improvements, though nothing out of the ordinary. Name, Chelsea, Level 5, Abilities, Dragon Force, Light Spirit, Rael's Blessing, Inherent Device, Mimicry, Possession, Phantasmagoria, Gia Foundation. Chelsea's unique artifact was intriguing. Unique artifact, Mimicry, a mask capable of transforming into other beings and partially replicating their abilities. Its effects far surpass those of her original Gia Foundation. However, the extent of this partial replication remained unclear. Since Chelsea was still unconscious, it wasn't the time to test it. Name, Najenda, Level 15, Abilities, Dragon Force, Flame Demon, Rael's Blessing, Inherent Device, Sword of Judgment, Possession, None. Name, Sheol, Level 5, Abilities, Dragon Force, Succubus, Rael's Blessing, Inherent Device, Corruption Ring, Possession, Cutter of Creation, Extase. The most notable upgrades belong to Najenda and Sheol. Flame Demon and Succubus abilities were likely derived from Rael's power as a demon lord. Succubus, huh? Rael mused, smirking at the thought. The idea of pairing a succubus allure with Sheol's pure and gentle personality created a striking juxtaposition. I'll definitely have to test this combination properly next time, he chuckled. For now, though, any further experiments had to wait. Velgrind, Velzard, and Taru had just returned. Chapter 149, Sudden Appearance of Rael. The startled Sayuri saw Mora the Imperial Palace's Grand Hall. When Rael arrived, fully dressed, the room was already filled with people waiting for him. From Mai to Sui, each person regarded him with a unique expression. Velgrind wore a teasing smile. Well, we've been working hard outside, and you've certainly been enjoying yourself, haven't you? Rael's expression stiffened. They had indeed been busy on his behalf, and the results were apparent. He glanced at his own stats. Name, Rael, Level 52. He had leveled up by 2 levels. It felt almost too good, like living off someone else's hard work. Their task had been straightforward: eliminate all the high-level danger beasts in the world while maintaining ecological balance. The experience gained from these creatures was considerable. Good work, he complimented, then swiftly shifted the topic. Asdeath, how did things go with the revolutionaries and the outsiders? Asdeath smiled cruelly. 2/3 of them are dead. 2/3. A few hundred of thousands eliminated. Rael responded indifferently. His orders to Asdeath had been clear: anyone who refused to surrender, including their leaders, was to be eradicated. Asdeath continued, her tone cold. The former nobles and officials have all been dealt with. The surrendering soldiers were purged as well, and all Tigu have been confiscated. Sui interjected, if that's the case, isn't it time for the coronation? Asdeath looked at Rael expectantly. The ceremony is ready. Shall we proceed now? Time was on their side. Let's do it, Rael said with a light laugh. Never thought I'd get to sit on an emperor's throne someday. The coronation ceremony proceeded without a hitch. There were no interruptions or objections. With the revolutionary army and the outsiders subdued and the original empire purged, who would dare oppose him? For the commoners, the fall of the previous regime brought little excitement. Years of oppression had dulled their spirits. While the overthrow of the old empire provided some relief, the future under a new emperor remained uncertain. They could only hope for less oppression. Rael, however, had no interest in governance. He took all the Tigu for himself and left the empire's administration to Najenda and Asdeath. How they managed it didn't concern him. Before leaving, he bestowed Asdeath with a powerful blessing. Name, Asdeath, Level 34, Abilities, Dragon Force, Frost Demon, Rael's Blessing, Inherent Device, Winter's Edge, Possession, Demon God Manifestation, Demon's Extract. Asdeath was ecstatic about her newfound strength, as it aligned perfectly with her belief in survival of the fittest. Stronger power meant pursuing even greater heights. With the empire secured and power consolidated, Rael and the others returned to their respective worlds. At Ari's villa, Sayuri, having finished cleaning up the dishes, let out a long sigh of relief. She was certain that nothing inappropriate had happened between Rael and Ari, which brought her a mix of feelings. On one hand, she felt slightly disappointed. Rael was exceptional in every way, and having him as Ari's partner would have put her at ease. On the other hand, there was an inexplicable sense of relief that she didn't dare examine too closely. Seeking distraction from her turbulent emotions, she busied herself with cleaning the house again. Eventually, she headed to the guest room to tidy the bed Rao had slept in. But as soon as she stepped inside and shut the door behind her, something strange happened. Sayuri suddenly leaned forward, her body pressed against the door. She turned her head to find Rao was standing behind her. Her heart froze in place. What stunned her even more was the undeniable sensation of warmth and softness through her silk sleepwear. Rao remained silent for a moment. He hadn't anticipated being thrust into such an awkward situation right after returning to this world. Still, he calmly stepped back. "Good afternoon, Mrs. Sawamura." Sayuri turned around, her expression a mix of shyness and confusion. Shy because of the strange sensation she had just experienced. Confused because Rao had suddenly appeared in the room. "Rao, how did you get here so suddenly? What if I told you it was an illusion? Would you believe me? What do you think?" Sayuri crossed her arms. She wasn't naive enough to be fooled by such a flimsy excuse. "Fair enough." Rao shrugged. He didn't think she would buy it, nor did he have any real reason to hide the truth. "In that case, let's just say it's due to supernatural powers. Would that explanation sit well with you?" Supernatural powers. Sayuri had no idea how to process this revelation. Yet, without it, there was no way to explain the current situation. She could confirm that the guest room had been empty just moments before. Staring into Rao's eyes, she felt as though she was teetering on the edge of a vast abyss. Still, curiosity pushed her forward. "If you don't mind, Rao, could we sit down and have a proper conversation about this?" In the living room, on the sofa, Rao and Sayuri faced each other. "Mrs. Sawamura, the truth is that this world contains supernatural elements. What some might call a hidden side to reality. My sudden appearance can be explained simply as a spatial transfer. And as for the earlier incident, it was purely accidental. It really had been a coincidence." Sayuri had entered the room to tidy up just as Rao returned, and the unfortunate contact had been incidental. "Ugh." Sayuri blushed, her mind flashing back to the overly vivid sensation she had felt earlier. Awkwardly, she stammered. I don't mind about that. Let's just focus on the main issue." Rao spread his hands in a gesture of nonchalance. "The main issue really is that simple. As long as she could accept the premise of supernatural powers, everything else would fall into place." Sayuri surprisingly didn't find it hard to accept. In fact, she found herself processing it more easily than she'd expected. After a moment of reflection, her expression grew complicated. "So, the fact that my ankle recovered so quickly after your massage, that was also due to supernatural powers." Her acceptance came naturally because she had already experienced the inexplicable. Reflecting on her instantaneous recovery, she realized it was beyond the realm of normal possibility. Correct. It was a combination of minor magic and healing energy. "I see." Finally receiving confirmation, Sayuri felt a wave of relief. At the very least, Rao didn't seem like someone who abused his powers indiscriminately. If anything, he had used them to help her. Taking a deep breath, Sayuri asked cautiously, "Rao, I'm an adult. It doesn't matter if I know these things or not. I can pretend they don't exist. But Ariri is different. Does she know about this?" Compared to herself, she was far more concerned about her daughter. Rao nodded. "She does." An unforeseen event involving Tomoyaki was the turning point. Tomoyaki? Hearing the name, Sayuri frowned, a wave of revulsion washing over her. But soon after, realization struck. "You're saying Tomoyaki's death is connected to this hidden world?" Rao's expression remained calm. "A monster killed him. Ariri witnessed it all. That's how we first crossed paths. So that's how it happened." Sayuri's expression softened in understanding. No wonder Tomoyaki's death had been so gruesome and bizarre. After a long pause, Sayuri gave a bitter smile. "Rao, isn't this kind of secret something you shouldn't casually share with others? Shouldn't my memory be erased, or maybe I should sign a confidentiality agreement?" She'd seen enough movies and read enough novels to predict the typical protocols for such situations. Offering to take these steps herself, she hoped to make things easier for Rao. However, Rao chuckled softly. "There's no need for any of that. There are no such strict rules here. But if it would put your mind at ease, how about this? In exchange, why don't you tell me the secret you avoided sharing yesterday?" He still wanted to hear her confirm his suspicions. Sayuri froze, clearly caught off guard. She hadn't expected him to ask for this. But this secret. After struggling internally for a moment, she exhaled and forced a bitter smile. "Rao, this secret is about Ariri. Actually, I'm not her mother." Rao didn't look surprised. Instead, his expression carried a subtle clarity, as though a missing piece had finally fallen into place. Chapter 150, New Function, Refinement. After learning Sayuri's secret, what truly surprised Rao was what she revealed next. In truth, the arranged marriage was orchestrated by my family. I never even met my husband. When I moved here, I was informed that he had already passed away. Afterward, I received an inheritance and a child. That child is Ariri. The details were indeed unexpected for Rao. So, you raised Ariri all by yourself. That must have been very difficult. Rao's gentle tone carried genuine respect for such a mother. This kind reassurance sent a subtle tremor through Sayuri's heart. It was the first time anyone had said something like this to her, and the man who spoke was none other than her daughter's potential romantic interest. At that moment, she felt a fleeting trace of envy and jealousy toward her daughter's youth. Wait. This kind of thought was unacceptable. Realizing her chaotic emotions, Sayuri quickly dismissed the strange notion. Clearing her throat awkwardly, she said, "Rao, are you heading to school next?" Rao shook his head. "No, I've already arranged for a friend to excuse me. It's fine if I don't go." "Oh, I see." Sayuri lowered her head. For a moment, she found herself speechless, unsure of what to say next. Rao, noticing her discomfort,